September next year.
Okay. Okay, we'll see.
2,000 square feet.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That needs to know what they're trying to have on their file.
You're trying to go for that?
They said they couldn't get last night at the resort.
Didn't he say that it was just retail? Just that's only retail?
They said that they were a C44 overlay that they were proposing was not amenable to community use facilities.
So what about at Aldi? Aldi?
I would love to have a meeting inside of Aldi. That'd be a dream.
But they're supposed to have community space, isn't that what's advertised on the board?
Well, Aldi's on Bedford.
Bedford and,
Yeah. They did a different, they chose a different zone, or they chose a different zone name. Like name. They didn't choose C4-4. They chose something different.
it seems like when it's advertised, they talk about community space.
For Aldi, you can do something like a regular residential and get a fresh certification. And you can get away with doing a lot more for a year on base.
Well, let's see, for that sign, I'm gonna write by the sign again, I'll see what it says. I thought it said something about community,
I can find
or
out.
it was like a billboard. On the corner, I'm gonna say on like Sullivan and Bedford corner, that spot.
The other side of the coin is interesting. It's what, like, you know how only half of that block is allowed to be residential and half of the block has to be commercial. So they're building like two buildings that touch, but they're separate buildings. It's stupid. It's a waste of money. I'm not, there's people that already live on that there. It's not like it's more efficient. Nothing.
This needs to be opened up, but this left in office all the time. And when I went to DC, not that long ago,
For the last like 5 years has said like we need a neighborhood 197C plan, which is like basically how the M Crown,
They don't have any more?
the Atlantic Avenue mixed use plan. So that's what she said that she wants to do. And then as soon as people propose development, she's opposed to it. So I'm not sure what signals that's sending. The rest of the board, the department's planning, we elected, I don't know.
something there, something to freshen up.
So when we went on that walkthrough, we noticed that I meet when the
There was a question last time.
I mean,
The driveway? Oh, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
$3,000.
yeah.
When we get to the business session, you gotta remind me to bring that up.
But who's gonna, who's coming up? We're trying to get this car block that's been sitting there. Tickets are deteriorating, breaking down so much, almost 5%. The only person told me there's a car, they finally told me after a year. Now, what took a year?
Yeah, my neighbor was sort of cyberbully this one guy who parks like in the hydrant, but also like it's a bus stop, so he's really not supposed to be there. Like, we sent tickets in, or we sent 311 to the place. And like, it used to be like a week back, and now it's like a day, and they come and like check at the car, and last time we did it, you got towed. So I think it's just persistence.
I saw somebody around here they parked in front of a fire hydrant. They talked about their license plates. So it was just, and there were two cars, no license plates, on the fire hydrant. So I was like, this is like next level ridiculous. So I called it. They got sorted within 90 minutes.
Yeah, but all those like cars, we wouldn't have to fight about leftover parking spaces for like the bike lane. You know, you get more than 50 spots back. Like,
And I was thinking that could we get some of the streets that are wider when we walk down, like say by that park? Is it wide enough that they can do the cars on the slant instead of parallel?
that's what they're proposing on
On
Kingston,
the,
yeah.
on the slant, okay. Because, like, when you're going towards White Castle, I don't know if you got White Castle.
I don't
See
need
the
White Castle,
cars,
but I know what you're talking
they're on the
about.
slant, and you can get more cars, I don't know.
That was a fight because they were there was something else there that was like, I call that like the Jewish flat iron. You know, the skinny one that I'm talking about when they redid Empire. And they put that, because they also put a bike lane in there.
Yeah.
They never used it, because the cars are parked.
I don't know
The
how
cars are
they,
parked in
I
the.
don't know how they work that out. You know, what would would even put the bike lane there. The cars would have to park, they back up to it.
But they stick their butts out too far. There's not, yeah, I mean, hopefully these are lessons learned that we taught DOT, right?
Oh, is that here? That's good, yes.
Or people.
Hello, ma'am, how are you?
It's the last thing.
You were smart not to sit.
Wow, this is a really busy meeting. We should have this one on.
I'm not staying till 10 o'clock, I'm letting you know now. Because I watched it and I fell asleep last night for you.
Well, wait till 11 o'clock.
I know.
All right, let's get started. So, thanks everyone for attending. I'm not sure if you've been to previous feedback sessions like these, but we've been holding these so we can get an idea of public thoughts on the school safety initiative from DOT here. And this one in particular is for us to get your POV and your feedback on changes that our committee has come up with in response to previous feedback for some of these initiatives, all right? So the idea of this meeting is we're going to take feedback from the public based on the plan that we may have seen. And you'll basically let us know whether we've gone too far, not gone far enough, or maybe give ideas on what you might have proposed for that area that might work well too. All right. My name is Ethan Norville. I'm the chair of the committee here, and we often do a lot of work like this, making sure that changes that happen work for the area that's being changed, and things are done pretty mindfully. So, some DOT folks are here. They're also free to give feedback on proposed changes, and the idea is that everyone here can have a chance to have a say on what we propose and how the resulting plan ends up looking. Alright, we only have one mic today, so as you come up to give your feedback, I'll ask you to come up here and speak into the mic so that folks can hear you. And it might make for a pretty stable meeting since we'll be coming up one by one and giving feedback, and I'll be taking care of a lot of your answers. So I'll go through initial overview of the changes so far. So for those who are seeing this today for the first time, or for those who might not have the plan in your hands, there are three main areas of changes that we had proposed. The first main area is regarding the bike lanes coming on Brooklyn and Kingston Avenue. There's one block between Empire and Lefferts Avenue where the road width there at the end of that plan, if built, would end up leaving about, I think, 10 feet for traffic to pass in. And we heard from a lot of you that that's an issue. It seems like it's a problem for emergency vehicles when it comes to passing through that one block span. And we're proposing that those segments of the bike lanes are either conventional or shared, which means just paint, not protected, so that vehicles can still have enough space to pass and there wouldn't be a choke point there. This would apply to Kingston and Brooklyn Avenue between Empire and Lefferts, so that there's ample space and there wouldn't be a permanent narrowing of that segment of the street, so that larger vehicles can pass, and so that you wouldn't end up in a situation where one vehicle might stop and nothing else can go around it. So the second area of feedback that we applied here and made a proposal for is basically regarding the bike lane sections on Brooklyn Avenue and Kingston Avenue, and the two-way section around Wingate Park that was proposed. So we also heard that a lot of people noticed issues that would probably have danger around buses dropping people off and picking people up, because people usually exit vehicles onto the curb, and if you add a protected bike lane there, people would have to essentially exit the vehicle and cross the bike lane to get to the curb. There were some concerns about children running out of vehicles potentially and not noticing a bike coming and that can hit them. And in that case, I assume there's going to be a buffer, especially in the diagram. There's going to be a buffer so that there's a little bit of a safe zone when you're exiting a vehicle. so you can stand in that and there wouldn't be a place where bikes are passing. But we're proposing for that buffer to be widened a bit so that in case someone exits a vehicle, you know, a little mindlessly or a little bit energetically, they would have an extra amount of space where they could exit, you know, the car or the bus, and there wouldn't be bikes passing as closely as there might have been in the original plan here.
Sorry, where exactly is that again?
So on page two, it concerns the protected sections of the bike lane, below Lefferts Avenue and around Wingate Park. Does that help? Okay. And the second part of the proposal there is we're also suggesting we use rumble strips so that we can slow bikers down around schools. Because of course speed's important too. If someone exits a vehicle when it's just in a bike lane in the area, we don't want, you know, bikers who are moving at their maximum speeds coming to potentially not see someone maybe hit them. So anything that can help people to reduce speed or just make the environment less conducive to riding a bike quickly, you want to use that in that area so that, of course, as part of a school safety plan, you want to have school goers safe, and that would help with that. And the third area of this one is one of our favorite things, parking. You want to reduce the parking loss throughout the entire plan. So the original plan had about 54 parking spots potentially slated to get repurposed. There would be a gain of a couple, but overall a loss of around 50. And it wouldn't be a loss by itself. It's usually these parking spots being converted to daylighting, so they would essentially be turned into like sidewalk extensions or just unused space to help people see incoming traffic when crossing a street, which is a pretty important part of, you know, behavior in the city. People generally walk into the street a little bit to see if cars are coming, and it also helps people know when not to enter the street. But 54 is still a pretty big number for this area, and that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback we heard. People want to have that parking loss reduced. So we propose that you want to have all the parking repurposings happen around points of interest. So of course around schools where it's most relevant, most necessary, and not as so much of a wide-reaching, you know, change of parking spots around the area. So this is another area where you will come in. You want to have an idea of what number of parking spots that essentially would be sacrificed for safety. Sounds good to you? Going forward, I think the committee will come up with a number, but we want to have the public involved in that. So regarding the parking loss, it's 54 right now as it is, and we want to potentially bring that down, and I'd like to hear some suggestions of what number might make the most sense in your opinion. So that's it for now. Those are the three areas, and if you can, review it in the document in your hands, take a look if you haven't already, and when you have feedback, raise your hand, come up here, and we'll take it into consideration.
I have a question for now, not I'll get my feedback later.
Yeah.
But on slide page 2, what happened with the Wingate area? It would be protected by, I just wasn't clear on that.
Okay. Yeah, those are protected, I believe. DOT, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. But yeah, those are protected. Those green sections are protected. The blue ones are just paint conventional bike lanes as usual.
So,
Protected how? Protected how? As in like the cars are the buffer?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, behind parked cars.
my question is, you said something about widening the street. How would that happen if the bike lane only it sounds like the bike lane and its buffer are getting wider. So how would that's what I'm trying to understand.
Okay, so in the specifics of that proposal, what we're suggesting is we essentially trade some of the bike lane space and add it to the buffer. So the bike lane doesn't entirely grow, the buffer grows and the bike lane gets a little smaller. So we save the actual travel lane space on the street, but no, they wouldn't be both getting wider. the bike lane would be getting a little narrower, the buffer would be getting a little bit bigger so that people can have that safe zone. And that would essentially be it.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
To
Make sense?
piggyback off of the Kingston Avenue area, because I'm in that location as well. Kingston is a very well-used block. It is a two-lane currently, as it's used. I think in the previous presentation, you guys had a two-lane bike lane on one side of the street, which was actually by the school where teachers do park, as well as it's a very high resident, as well as the hospital, as well as another school, as well as another Susan B. McKinney. So there's a lot of different entities happening right there, and one of my big issues, because of the parking, we also combat a 24-foot truck that is constantly parking in the area. Whether it's reported or not, nothing happens, it's come back again, and it's still taking up parking. On the other side, there's residents, and they have driveways. However, when you have buildings on other sides of the street, as well as combating with other entities trying to park, parking is very important over here, especially for people who aren't able to use public transportation. Is there another way that we can still keep the two lanes? Because this is also a street in which the EMT uses. So you have many modes of transportation coming through this area, and you're dwindling it down to one lane. That's my issue.
So the club, I believe, keeps it as a wide travel lane and a wide parking lane so that there's enough space for essentially two vehicles to pass, but it wouldn't be formally two lanes. The part of Kingston above Empire is one lane. I mean, above
And that's a
Lefferts is
big
one
issue
lane
too
for
in the
now.
mornings, because there's a lot of back traffic. By the time you get to Lefferts, even this morning when I was taking a Uber to the cut off, we were able to cut off at Lefferts because there wasn't a backlog of so many cars. By the time you get between Lefferts and Empire, and then continuing up to Kingston, because it's such a tight and narrow space, you have traffic that's all the way backed up to there. Between Lefferts and down is your last moment to try and deviate to a different direction before you get stuck in the morning traffic.
Okay. Things like that. Yeah, you got it.
Just a quick question. You said about both Kingston and Brooklyn about the standard bike lane.
Yeah.
My question is, are you planning on reducing the travel into one travel lane or keep it as two?
The
Like
section
meaning a
between
shared bike lane
the
or
section between Empire and Lefferts is one right now.
that's Kingston, so between Empire and Lefferts it's both. It's two lanes. Both of them are two lanes.
The Kingston's one.
Kingston is essentially one, but between all the buildings, it's double parked. And there's a lot of times, emergency vehicles on that block. Nearly every day you travel, there's an ambulance there, police there, fire, there's always emergency vehicles. So right now, the way it is, it's passable. There's all the residents that will double park regardless. So by making the bike lane won't really help much because everybody's gonna have to go around the street anyway. But Brooklyn is I mentioned this last time, is again, there's double parked vehicles. People live, there's deliveries, taxis, not. So at the moment, there's a way to skirt around it. When there's one lane, whether it's a bike lane or an extended parking lane, pretty much that it's gonna be a disaster 10 times over.
Traffic control further down than what it was.
Exactly, so that's creating another problem. Right now, as it is, traffic at least flows. There's, we're New Yorkers and we figure out how to maneuver, zigzag between traffic.
We do.
Now, about the protected bike lanes, I last time voiced my opposition. There was actually a video went around a little girl who crossed, I think, from a bus. She went into the bike lane, just got hit by a cyclist. And I'm sure so like I said before, the entire design, this entire concept of this protected bike lane is a complete design flaw from the get-go. And as a resident here, and as somebody who works here, I strongly oppose this. And I'm sure pretty much everybody here does.
So this gentleman,
Yeah.
you
You want
have
us
it?
to come up or just, I'm happy to talk from where
Oh, okay, all right.
I'm. You want me to come up or just talk from here?
You can speak from
Oh,
here.
I'm here, I'm
Yeah.
good. All right. I actually have a different viewpoint. I have lived here since 1984 and biking around for 20 years. Many of the beneficiaries of the plan are not here, including my children, who are not able to bike on Kingston because it's terrifying. I used to bike up Madison Avenue to get to Hunter College, and Kingston is 8 times worse than it ever was going between the buses. I just, I should say also, I'm a contractor, I do business with DOT. I don't have a conflict of interest here because my current project portfolio doesn't include bike and ped projects. But I feel very strongly that when we talk about preservation of free parking, providing free space for storage of private property should be our lowest civic priority. And I understand that people have different ways of getting around, people have mobility challenges. I understand there's a place for cars, but I strongly resent watering down this plan to service the owners of private automobiles. And, I would also just point out again that, I appreciate this is a democratic forum and people are allowed to voice their opinions, but it's not truly democratic in the sense that I got stuff to do. I got dinner to have with my kids. My kids can't be here to talk about this, but my kids are not able to bike and walk around the city that I grew up in, and it's disappointing because I go to other places that are more modern and proactive in their approach to active mobility, and I find that it's a much different situation. And I think that quibbling over how much free stuff we give to people is kind of a negative reflection on our civic values.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So you, ma'am, and then you, and I'm coming to you. You, ma'am, then you, ma'am, and then I come to, then you. Okay. Ma'am, yes. Is it okay?
I live on Fenimore. My wife got hit in front of our home a few years ago from a car. The side that I live on is both residential as well as apartment buildings. There's also a school. I can't understand how anyone would think that this is a good idea on Fenimore Street because it's further away from the park. Not only that, we have been trying to get a speed bump for the past 20 years, and somehow we can't get a speed bump, but we can get bike lanes. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's hard, it's bad enough that there is, how tall is that building, Sophie? On a 20-story building at the end of our corner. I own my home, so you know what? I do want to park where I live, all right? That's important to me. When I come home late at night, I waited 4.5 hours, almost until 4:45, to find a parking spot, AM, okay, where I live, okay? So I don't want to hear about, oh, free this and free that or whatever. I pay taxes, all right? I could sweep my own gutter. I don't need the city to come by and sweep my gutter if that's the case, okay? But for where I live on Fenimore, it's hard enough with the parking. And there's a school, there's a daycare center. It just does not make sense. And it's not, I mean, the distance, I don't know if this is for convenience of the park. I don't know who thought, like, this is a good idea. Because it's literally, okay. It's literally, you know, there are streets that are closer, so it doesn't serve any purpose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry I didn't mention that everyone has 3 minutes, and then I'll put up a sign that says 30 seconds. Okay, thank you. Ma'am?
Hi, my name's Nina, and I live in CB 14, I'm actually a member there of the board, but I work here. And, you know, just like the man said about not letting his kids bicycle if they can't, there are streets that I won't bicycle on here. And it could become very problematic if I need to traverse like from Kingsbrook on Schenectady and Rutland to get over to the location at Eastern Parkway and Utica or vice versa. Because there are streets where I will admit I bicycle on the sidewalk. Now I go slow, I stop for pedestrians, I give them the right of way, but you know, there's just no place to be that's safe. And I think that for, you know, as terrible it is for somebody on a bicycle to not be looking out and watching for pedestrians, there are far more vehicle versus pedestrian and bicycle riders in the city, and the numbers of deaths are going up. It's like every morning, if you listen to 1010 Wins, you hear about somebody else on a bicycle, somebody else walking who was hit by a car. I think that we need a complete mindset change in this city about just how we treat each other and how we allot our space. I've been around the world, I've seen other places, very congested, crowded cities. They make it work. We can make it work as New Yorkers too.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also a New York City contractor, so I do business with DOT a lot. I do agree that some implementations are for safety reasons. I personally don't feel this is at all a safety thing. For some reason, it seems to be the opposite of it. Number one is, yes, I do bike. I do use a city bike in New York City all the time. I go to work with it many times. Number two is I also use my car. So I use both modes of transportation. I enjoy them both. The first failure I saw in New York City of the DOT creating a bike lane is along Parkside Avenue in Brooklyn. We're completely backed up there. It took me about 45 minutes to come home today for absolutely no reason except poor design management. There's enough place to bike in the park. I don't understand why they put a lane on the side of the park. But more than that, I am actually a New York City paramedic. That's what I do. Besides being a contractor, I actually service this neighborhood in particular. And I can tell you right now, reducing any lanes to one lane is absolutely bottlenecking this neighborhood. The main corridor for 911 up to this neighborhood is up Kingston Avenue from the hospital. They go consistently that way. That doesn't allow for ambulances to move, take away the lane from this neighborhood. That's number one. Number two is blocks which was brought up, that have large buildings. The chance of an ambulance being called to that building is probably guaranteed at least once a day for the amount of people. If you're going to block that by an ambulance, cars are not moving. You just locked up the entire neighborhood. I don't understand the planning for it. Number three is my four daughters go to school on Lefferts and Brooklyn Avenue. Okay, the concept that my daughter will have to get out of a car, cross a bike lane to get to the sidewalk is absolutely horrendous. And I'm going to present to the DOT 2 videos of incidents that happened in Williamsburg due to failed planning. I think you should cringeworthy to see this happen. You guys seen this? And if you can tell me rightfully that you're creating a bike lane here, here's another one, and you probably saw this one. Okay, this is because school buses drop their kids off. The kids do not understand this. If you can tell me that this is a safety concern, then there's something wrong here. And I bike, I use my car. So this has to stop and has to stop now. And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, yes, sir.
Hi, biking is one of my main forms of transportation around the city. I live on that intersection, Lefferts and Brooklyn Avenue. I do use the Parkside Avenue protected bike lane. Thank you very much. I'm here to support broadly protected bike lanes as much as possible, because like the way that motorists can behave throughout Brooklyn is extremely dangerous. So I'm broadly in support of traffic calming and like increasing other options so that there is less competition for people who do need to use their cars for whatever reason. It means that other people will use other modes of transportation, including people who feel safer biking. Also about that intersection on Lefferts and Brooklyn, my partner witnessed a child hit by a motorist when they swung around the corner and made a right onto Brooklyn Avenue. We do not know what happened to that child. It looked extremely serious. So that intersection is actually extremely dangerous.
Like a bike lane.
Of course you can. On Lefferts, you can make a right onto Brooklyn Avenue. Like that is what happened.
On left, yes.
Yes, you can, because it's two ways and you go on the cross.
Please don't interrupt us.
So that that intersection really needs some like love and attention, traffic calm, because it is school children who are walking back and forth. And it's also extremely congested. So I would hope that the Department of Transportation would collaborate with the school to come up with a more equitable and safer solution for people who need to drop off their kids, but like also the buses are taking up all of the spots around the school. So what happens is that the buses are on Brooklyn Avenue, they take up the lane, and then the people who want to drop off their children are taking up an entire other lane. It's causing a bottleneck. So a better solution needs to be worked out, like collaborating with the school. But in general, I am in favor of more protected bike lanes. Like,
Thank you.
it is very
I
dangerous.
think I saw someone here, yes.
Yeah.
And then you, sir.
So, I'm not in the medical field, but I'll say this, at times a toe needs to be amputated and it sucks. But sometimes, when a toe needs to be amputated, we don't go up till the waist. You do whatever's needed. This is a broken system, don't get me wrong, we've got problems. But with cyclists, and nobody in the room take offense to this, I've driven a school bus, I started in 2016. Now I don't do it full time anymore, but I do it from time to time. And cyclists tend, and I'm not saying anybody in this room, cyclists tend not to stop for the stop sign. With this video in Williamsburg that you saw, it's a 2-lane, and I don't know if, at that point, I'm not sufficiently certain that they legally need to stop, because it's a divided highway. And even if they are required to stop, in that case, they would have a hard time knowing that they need to stop, because they have a hard time seeing the bus. So I'm here, the children couldn't make it here, like the other guy said. There are thousands of children in this community, and I don't want to see another kid get hit by a cyclist and break his femur, as has happened to one of my passengers. And that wasn't a bike lane, that was on Crown Street. Sorry, what?
I said, how many kids have gotten hit by cars?
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm not done, I didn't get 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm just saying thank you. It's okay, it'll be all right.
All right, so I think bike lanes could be a good idea after cyclists are regulated and enforced. At this point, for a while, I've been speaking to Joey Hayward, the former commanding officer. He said they cannot enforce cyclists. The current commanding officer says cyclists run and we cannot chase them. We need one. I know Brian Cunningham at one point tried to introduce a bill about license plates on bicycles. Till something happens, they can be regulated and enforced. We should not make the problem worse. In the future, maybe the MTA will not consider bus routes down such areas because they're so narrow. When it comes to Kingston Avenue, the building with all the apartments, I don't live on that block, but the people on that block need to double park to unload their car. It's just not fair to them to have to go 8 blocks away and bring a push cart and take their stuff. The same thing on Brooklyn Avenue, which it sounds like there was feedback on that. I think we should encourage cyclists to be safe overall, not bust through reds. When I stop and make a left turn, because I like to be safe, I want to make sure about the pedestrians in the intersection. I have cyclists barreling by. It scares me every time. So, and then on red lights, I have the same thing. Cyclists barreling by. Cyclists need to also take steps to ensure their own safety, and that does not excuse anybody else from endangering. The cyclists need to take steps to ensure their own safety. They should be wearing helmets and following the rules of the road and stay off the sidewalk.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Super.
So I live on Fenimore Street, and I have heard no reason from anyone why there is a bike lane proposed for this street and for Rutland. I bike as well as drive, and I bike down my street all the time. It is not a safety issue. However, it is a narrow street. Putting a bike lane here would would not leave enough room for a car to pass by if anyone was double parked, if there was a delivery vehicle. We have 24/7 double parking on my street. There is insane competition for parking on my block. The incident that my neighbor was talking about happened because somebody who was trying to grab an open parking spot drove backwards 300 feet and hit
ran
her
her-
wife.
Almost
Okay.
killed her in front of the home.
And so this is the situation that we're dealing with, and the problem is, yes, you say it's just gonna be a shared bike lane, but the September 29th issue of Transalt, they're advocating for barriers on already shared bike lanes in our community, on Maple, on Lincoln, on Parkside, and on Ocean. So once they get a shared bike lane, they wanna put up a barrier. We had the CB9 resolution calling for automated enforcement and ticketing of shared bike lanes. So anytime that we have to drive in the bike lane because there's a double parked car or a delivery vehicle, we would be ticketed. We would not be able to drive to our own homes. If that happens, we will sue you because there's no reason for a bike lane to be on this block. There's no safety reason given. It does not connect to Prospect Park. It is an arbitrary decision.
And there's a school.
Okay. You still have time, is that it? You
I'm
got-
done.
Okay, yes, sir?
Okay, so I want to address two things. One thing was about parking. So I was looking on the neighborhood to see how we can minimize the loss of parking. And I noticed on Empire Boulevard, there are two bus stops that are within 300 feet of each other. And the same on Brooklyn Avenue and Empire Boulevard. So I don't think anybody probably paid attention to those bus stops. Probably two of them could be removed, and that will save some of the spots we may have to lose due to safety issues. So that's one thing I think we can do to help at least mitigate the problem of parking. And another issue is about the bike lane. So the videos that came out from Williamsburg, where this week there was 3 kids that were hit. If you have my kids going down Brooklyn Avenue, and the thought that they have to go on a bus or cross, even on the sidewalk, it's bad, a delivery guy driving the sidewalk. So, like some of my kids go off the street, and I live on a side street, there's no bike lane. Delivery guys scoot by electric scooters freaks me out. But the protected bike lane is protecting, the question protecting who? Now the idea of pedestrian, I'm a biker and I'm a driver and a walker. Generally speaking, bikers, and this is a New York thing, aggressiveness is not only on cars. Bikers are very aggressive. They always feel that if the car hits them, they're in the green. I actually asked the captain of the 7-1 if they have stats on accidents with bikes and cars, if they know who's at fault, and they do. So we want to look into that because automatically people assume the car is to blame. There are bad drivers and bad bikers. If someone's not safe, they're not safe on the bike or not safe in the car. And general safety is an awareness that people need to have. And sometimes pedestrians just walk into a street, they think that they're invincible. Cars, you're thinking about 15,000 things at once. So it's everybody in their own way being more safe. So the two things I want to point out is that we can reclaim some parking from the duplicate bus stops will help save some parking. Number 2, the protected bike lane, to think about the kids. Like, I agree with you mentioned before about cars hitting kids. It's a disaster. But why would we bring more danger? It's true, cars hit kids and it's a problem. But bringing a bike lane will just increase the problem, not solve the problem. And we can find a way that everyone has different modes. If I could only bike, I would, but I can't. So finding a shared way of using it is good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, okay. Just a few comments. First of all, I like what he said, that I think it's important that bicycles should have lights and license plates. Second of all, we have nice sized families. I live here since 1953, my husband lives since 1956. But we have nice sized families, and you cannot expect a family with 6 children to use a bicycle. It's like out of the question. So I think you have to consider those of us who live here for many years. We need to park our cars. We can't walk around for 4.5 hours to find a parking space. You need to consider the fact that we need places for cars. Everything, just to walk, you can fall and trip also, so stop blaming the cars for the accidents. Another thing, my husband and I used to bike. We can't anymore because of our age, and we're not so thin anymore. So if we did anyway, it would be in the park, not there. Another thing, why do you have to put the bicycles on the streets? Why can't they be like, there's a place on Lefferts Avenue that the sidewalk protrudes. Why can't you just put the bicycles on the sidewalks? Why do they have to take away places from people where they park? And also with the question of kids crossing the streets, just put them on the sidewalks.
I believe that was part of the plan.
Excuse me?
That was part of the plan, just.
Yes, okay, thank you. And there are too many bicycles, spots in Crown Heights. There are way too many. I'm not gonna say that we don't use the bicycles, but we use mostly cars. We have large families, and we cannot always use bicycles. And you have to consider us. We're here many, many years, and many of us have large families, and you really have to consider the fact that we're not singles. And we plan to be married and have families. Hitler killed 6 million, we're allowed to have children. Okay, so that's basically it, that I wanna make sure that, everybody said all the other things I was gonna say. Just to remember that you have to consider those of us who cannot bike. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Yeah, I'm born and raised Crown Heightser. 6 years ago in October, a car was coming down Brooklyn Avenue, and when it came to Crown Street, it ran up on the sidewalk and ran over a Jewish man and his son, and slammed into the retaining brick wall.
Yep.
And there's a video of it online. I don't recommend for the faint of heart to watch it, but it's terrifying to watch. Since that incident, no actions were taken to improve Brooklyn Avenue, which is a downhill speedway. It's used by drivers to jockey around other drivers and pass, including very inexperienced drivers who don't understand the dangers of driving downhill, how it's very difficult to brake. It's a residential street, and it's very light traffic, and you could do improvements to make it safer. And these kinds of improvements have been done throughout the city, and it's been proven to save lives. It's been proven to prevent injuries, including loss of limb and paralysis. It's been done in cities and towns all over the world, and it's a good thing, and I think we should get behind it. I don't think it's a matter of fights between cyclists and drivers. I don't think anybody's disobeying the law at a greater rate, whether you're riding a bike or walking or cycling. It's all people that are doing it. And if you make it safer for everyone, like it's been proven to do, it'll just be better for everyone.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir?
Good evening.
Everyone knows.
I sat back here for 34 years. I was the chairman of the community board for 34 years.
Yes.
So, not just,
Get that door, come on.
not quite the landlord, but try to do it right. At least we rebuilt it nicely from what we inherited.
Yes.
My name is Jacob Goldstein. I am a lifelong resident of this community. As long as you look at me, I've been here all my life. I'm gonna say a couple things that are gonna perhaps be uncomfortable, but they're factual. There are communities in Brooklyn that have no bike lanes. Go to Williamsburg, find me a bike lane. On White Avenue, there's a bike lane. No bike lanes in Williamsburg, and I know why. I'm not gonna say it publicly, but it was done, and the city agreed not to put bike lanes there. Period, end of paragraph. Go to Borough Park. Well, there's wide streets. Find me a bike lane. But when it comes to us, in this community, you guys decided to dump on us. I'm gonna help you a little bit. There are bike racks opposite a girls' school. I dare you to find me a bike that's moved from that rack. Why do we have it there? Why doesn't it just pull down? Albany.
I do use that bike rack actually. Just go for that.
But how frequently?
Albany and Crown.
Albany and Montgomery, sir.
That's a huge problem. So that's just giving you an idea of the issues that we deal with bikes. A very serious issue is Empire Boulevard. And that is simply put, there are trucks there, there are buses there, and bikes go there. There are 3 or 4 bad accidents that have happened when a truck is double parked or it pulls into space, he doesn't see a bike, and the biker gets whacked. There have been a couple of very, very serious injuries. So this whole idea of placing more bikes in our community, removing parking spaces from residents, the community's split between older people and younger people, that's something that needs to be looked at. And I'll conclude with one quick story. Kathy Keegan, do you ever hear of her? Former commissioner, DOT commissioner. She was in Brooklyn. And the city had an idea about doing this to Kingston Avenue years ago. Narrowing the street, bike lanes. So I called her on the phone, and I told her, Commissioner, come with me at 8 o'clock in the morning, and let's stand on the corner of Crown Street and Kingston Avenue and look at the traffic and take a look at what happens there. Delivery trucks show up, people are walking, they're competing. She almost saw two close to call accidents where the driver opened the door and nearly smacked up over a person on a bike. We have a situation here. It's not like in Greenpoint where you don't have the loads of trucks, et cetera, et cetera. We have a serious issue here. We have lots of kids. The kids all walk. They're not bikers. Yet they do have bikes. I'm not gonna say they don't, but the bulk walk. Our people walk. People drive. This is not a very, very good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
A couple points here, which I think the DOT should look at before they're concentrating on bike lanes. Number one is we have a major intersection problem with backed up traffic. We have a major intersection problem with backed up traffic on New York Avenue and Empire Boulevard. Every single morning, the overflow of traffic goes into an intersection, backs up the entire street. If the DOT feels they have what to do, please concentrate on that. That is the police station corner. I actually spoke to the commanding officer of the precinct the other day, and he says he has nothing to do because there's no one to talk to the DOT to do anything about it. There has to be an ability to move traffic up that intersection. That will actually make it a lot safer and keep traffic moving. Number two is obviously everything here is about safety, safety, safety. I just want to know, what does DOT plan to do to keep the bike lanes clean of snow? If you're telling us that our kid has to cross over a bike lane to go to school, I don't see the city cleaning those bike lanes. I ride a bike. That's what I do. It's one of my modes of transportation. I don't see the city going around and cleaning that of leaves or anything else like that. The street sweeper does not go up those bike lanes to clean them. No one does. No one really cares about it. I'm not sure who's deciding why these bike lanes are needed, but if you don't have a concrete plan of how to maintain those bike lanes, keep them clean, and keep them safe for even the biker, then this is one big joke. Number three is if you really insist on putting bike lanes on it, make it a shared lane, just like any other street. And especially on the corner of Lefferts and Brooklyn Avenue, move it to the other side, the left side. Why should it be on the right side next to the cars? If you're really that adamant about it. The point is, it's not about safety. It's about somebody trying to throw an agenda, push an agenda down our throats. That we need bike lanes. It has nothing to do with anything more than that. It has to stop now, and we're going to stand up for our rights in this community. Enough is enough.
Reduce the bike lanes.
Yes. It was this young lady, and then Teresa.
Okay.
Yes, Ron? I said I wasn't gonna say anything, but you know I have to. When the gentleman earlier talked about free parking for vehicles on the street, come on, that's kind of like a cop-out. We have to look at our city, what we're doing here in our city to provide a reasonable access for all individuals, no matter what mode of vehicle you're using, a bicycle, a scooter, walking, that we should be able to work together. I happened to be in Boston maybe a month ago, and I was waiting at the bus terminal for someone to pick us up, and I couldn't believe how the amount of traffic and things that was going on, but the people respected each other as they were traveling. So I think that it's more of a mindset thing that we have going on here. And one of my members referred us to a 5-Minute City article some years back, where it talked about having certain things in a particular area so that you could walk to that, you could bike to that. But our city is not made up like that. So I think that we have to look at how do we regulate bicycles more. You might not gonna happy to hear that, but there's no buy-in. They say that it's free, the cars are parked free. Well, if I don't have my registration paid for, if I don't have my insurance paid for, it's not like I'm really parking for free. I have to pay in order to park there. So it's not like it's free, like the bicyclers that have the opportunity to have lanes and different things and using our money to further their free ability to access. Now, I'm not saying you know, I don't want the bicyclists, you know, because you know, I say this all the time. The parking is not really my thing because I have a garage, so I pull in. But I'm fighting for the people that don't have the garage, the people that have to sit out there for 5 hours in order for them to get a park. So I believe that we need to look at what we're doing here, how we're giving up our streets to the city bikes, to the zip cars, to all of these other profit entities that are removing things from our streets. But how are we benefiting from it? They're not cleaning the streets. They're not moving the snow from the zip car lanes. There are a lot of things that we need to look at. Because what is the 5-year plan? And by chance, were you able to bring those studies that I asked for from the last meeting?
Yes,
So-
I can answer those. I don't know if we have time now.
Okay, well, cool. I
Okay,
appreciate you.
So I went through, I actually watched the video last time to make sure I got the questions right. I'll just warn you now, my answers are not very satisfying. So.
Well, they never are, so we'll just work
I
with
know.
it.
Okay, so the first question was, what are the bike injuries in 2010 versus citywide bike injuries in 2023? The best I could do is 2012 versus 2023. I'll just tell you the number. There were 4,207 bike injuries in 2012, 5,158 bike injuries in 2023. And
Can you stop right there? Were you able to differentiate the causes of the bicycles so that we can know? Because if
you have to
we,
go crash by crash and read the crash reports, and even then, it's often not clear.
so if
It's a
we're,
real
so
challenge.
let's stick with that. I'm glad that you brought that up, because if we're making a safety plan and implementing these things, how do we make a plan if we don't know what the cause and effect is, so that we can ensure that the plan that we're making will be effective enough to save the driver, to save the kid, to be able to have the ambulance driver to have enough space to get by, so that the biker can be safe when they're bicycling. Okay.
Should we also know how many more bikes were on the street?
Exactly. So there's another piece to this where if you're assessing the risk factor, like for cyclist safety, for example, you have to divide the number of crashes or normalize it by the number of people riding on those streets. That's another thing that's complicated to calculate. We come up with like kind of a general citywide thing. It's a little rough. We do have a report. Thought that was my timer. We have an ongoing study called the Bike, I'm blanking on the name right now, Bike Risk Index. It was done over the course of 10 or 15 years, and you can look it up on our website, it's easy. That sort of shows how, as cycling has grown, the risk of getting hurt as a cyclist
Increases.
has dropped.
Oh, it's dropped?
For the individual cyclist, because the number of people biking between 2012 and 2023 is skyrocketed, obviously, right?
Okay,
In 2012, I don't think we even had City Bike yet. So it's a very different, it's a different landscape. So this kind of brings me to a couple things related to the.
One point about the accidents, according to the NYPD, they claim that they do have assessment who was at fault. So I'm not sure if maybe it's not passing order to DOT, but I went to the 7-1, I asked the commanding officer, and he said they do have that information. So, I don't
A
know.
lot of entities need to work together to.
That's what he told me. So
All I can tell you is that we read crash reports, and often it's unclear, and often even the police
Okay.
officer writing it
Is
unsure.
that numbers for this neighborhood, or is that in general citywide?
Citywide, that was a question.
That's not a fair assessment.
What we were asked to get from, and I could tell you what minute,
So why
what
did
hour.
you choose our neighborhood to?
I'll tell you why, because at the last meeting, which was even more contentious than this one, there was.
We're not contentious, we're just trying to get.
I know. There was a question about how biking has changed, and I said, what do you want exactly? And it was citywide, how many bike injuries, 2010 versus 2023. Now, that said, I was also warned by our data scientists at DOT who manage these databases that the definition of a bike changes almost every year in the last number of years. So it's hard to compare, 2021 to 22 to 23, because there's all these mopeds, right, and scooters, right, and sometimes, like some years they call that a bike, and the next year they say, no, that's a motorcycle, and then the next year they say that's an e-bike. So that's a challenging piece to it. This brings me to the second question that was brought up at the last meeting. The request was to update the slide we had that was the general benefits of protected bike lanes. So we had this slide in the presentation that said, basically, we did a study about protected bike lanes installed between 2007 and 2017. And we do a before-after safety analysis on those corridors for all roadway users. And we found that crashes drop for motor vehicle occupants, for cyclists, but they especially drop for pedestrians. And it's, I think, 21% is the number we always talk about. That's like the average across all the protected bike lanes installed between 2007 and 2017. And the question was, could you update that data to go all the way to 2024? So the reason why, a little bit about those statistics. To be statistically relevant, we need to look at a corridor with 3 years of before and 3 years of after data.
Okay.
So a 2017 project that was installed, the after data is 2018 through 2020. So it's not really the study that ends in 2017, the study ends in 2020. Another piece to this is that it is extremely difficult for us the last 2 years to develop a safety narrative about individual changes because of COVID and what that did to statistics citywide for 2020 and 2021 especially, where travel patterns changed, driving behavior changed a lot. So if we put in a protected bike lane in 2020, we found that crashes dropped, it's hard for us to say if that's because bike lanes are safer or if it's because there's fewer people on the road. So that's another challenging piece there. So the answer to the question 2 is no. We don't have more up-to-date overall protected bike lanes, safety data for pedestrians and all other road users, but with the caveat that although it said that was up to 2017, that was projects that were installed in 17, data going up to 2020. The last question was a question for updated crash stats for the project area. And I think there must have been a miscommunication, maybe I didn't point it out right in the presentation, because the crash statistics we were referencing for Brooklyn and Kingston were from 2019 to 2023, which is the 5 years most recent data that we have available. And that is the answer to the 3 questions. Sorry, I know it's.
Sorry, I asked the question. One second before we start. We do have a schedule to keep, and we're going to move on from this section in the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay, but you didn't address my question.
Yes, we're going to consider your question.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Excuse me, whoever has the phone on, could you please mute it?
I asked if you could compare the crash stats to other neighborhoods with large families, because to compare us to citywide, because you're looking to put it into specifically our neighborhood, which is a high density neighborhood with children, large families. And I asked for if you could compare that data to other neighborhoods.
Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me. You got you, okay.
No, but he
This
didn't, but
gentleman is next.
that was from last time.
I understand. This gentleman is next. We're gonna go in order, okay?
So I want to speak from a perspective. Everybody spoke about the safety. I was talking about the traffic. I'm not saying everything was said. It's not important, but I want to focus on the traffic. I drive a bus on Bedford Avenue, and up to a few weeks ago, they made a secure bike lane on Bedford Avenue, and I can tell you that it used to take me 20 minutes to get to Bedford Avenue, to Flushing, to Lafayette area. Now it takes me 35 minutes. And the reason is, because of the secure bike lane, the traffic became impossible. And the reason why is because the way traffic accumulates and builds, it's when cars merge into lanes. If you have 2 lanes that go straight, even though there's a lot of cars, there's a flow. But the traffic becomes when cars merge into each other lanes. And it's enough that a Uber driver waits for a few minutes, a delivery truck, a UPS driver, etc. You have cars merging, and it's the old Bedford Avenue, it's a big zigzag, and the traffic becomes impassable. Terrible traffic. And all my colleagues, we talk on the radio, we came to a conclusion, the traffic became impassable. Not mentioning the danger that when you drop the kids, you open the stop signs and used to apply for the bikers also, so the kids could cross safely. Now you have kids that have to the bikes on the bike lanes don't see the stop signs, they don't stop, and it's a major danger for the kids that have to get to the sidewalk.
Nobody's done so.
Okay, thank you.
There are bikes and cars.
Can I just ask a question?
Okay.
I'm
sorry.
Take two more questions.
We're gonna include you.
Yes, Teresa.
This gentleman,
Hand up for a
please.
while.
Great,
She's
thank-
next
oh.
than you.
Hi, my name's Teresa. I'm not gonna yell. I'm not good at yelling. I live in Crown Heights. I bike. I drive. I walk a dog. I have a kid who's in college. But Empire Boulevard. We have bike lanes there. They end. They don't continue to the park. We've put in something for that. It hasn't happened. I want a bike lane that goes to Prospect Park. And I want people to use the bike lane because right now, Empire Boulevard, guess where everybody's riding? On the sidewalk, the electric bikes, okay? So we have a problem with enforcement. That's a big problem. It's not enforced. The other thing I want to bring up is there's a council person named Eric Bruckar in Manhattan, and he introduced this concept of cargo bikes. I have a video here. You can see him with the cargo bikes. Now, the future and what is happening with these bike lanes is not necessarily bikes. It's going to be cargo vehicles. Here's one. It's like a little truck. When this little truck comes to your bike lane, guess what it's going to do? It's going to stop in that bike lane. It's going to block the bike lane. If bike lanes were for bikes, that would be great. You know, I want a bike. I want to park my bike as well. And guess what? They are not putting in bike racks for a regular bicyclist or my bike that's where I can safely park or anybody can. They're going to force us to use these cars and the rent the bikes. You know, it's a corporate money grab. You know, where's my bike rack where I can park my bike, where I don't have to rent a bike? I don't want to rent a car. I want to drive my car and I want to park it. You know, so that's just a point I want to make in addition to emergency vehicles. There was a study that just came out from the New York Senate about the emergency vehicle response time. We have a lot of hospitals in this area where they're proposing these bike lanes, right? So what's going to happen? Emergency vehicles are not going to make it. People are going to die. We know how those lanes were used during COVID. How many ambulances did you hear go back and forth when you lived here? I heard them consistently. So let's be clear for the EMS. Thank you for listening to my talk.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you everybody for your time. I just wanted to speak up quickly that I'm here to strongly support the bike lanes. I think it's very important that supporting alternatives to driving is what reduces traffic, it's what reduces fatalities, it's what reduces travel times for everybody. And I want to offer a thought experiment. There's a lovely city called Houston, which they built a 26-lane highway. At rush hour, it is gridlocked. It is not possible to widen roads enough to reduce traffic if you have a desirable neighborhood. So I'm concerned that we're going to chase a mirage, that if we try to widen roads to maintain flows of cars, it will only increase the number of drivers. We could build a 500-car parking lot right in the middle of all this, and I would buy a car. That's how induced demand works. So just because you have more parking spaces available doesn't mean that there will be more for you available. So with that, I support this plan. 54 lanes is a reasonable compromise for safety. We're talking about children's lives. We're talking about safety.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, I just want to know.
You see this video, you understand.
Stop the talking, please.
There's video.
Talk.
Who thought to add these bike lanes? Was it your committee, or how did it come up for
If I could,
for
I can
Rutland,
answer that.
for Rutland and Fenimore?
Those,
And was it a survey done?
those two I can answer, but I know I was told that the plan in general was created as a response to requests from teachers in the area and school principals.
Teachers and school principals?
Yeah.
We have those names?
Wait, last time you
What
mentioned
school?
it was Wingate that was
Wait a minute, what school?
it was
Schools
Wingate.
are on Wingate.
I'm sorry?
Schools are on Wingate in that complex area.
That's Wingate. I'm talking about Fenimore and Rutland.
Fenimore's also next to Wingate, links into Wingate.
Right, so why not put it on Wingate?
Yeah, it's at Wingate. So that's.
It's all around Wingate.
Around.
You say Winthrop?
Winthrop. Right, why Fenimore?
There's a section of Winthrop that actually is there, it's a two-way bike lane, but the reason why it doesn't continue is because Winthrop narrows. Winthrop Street gets narrower away from, if you go westward from Brooklyn Avenue, Winthrop Street gets narrower. The committee and I went on a walk inspecting the area a few weeks ago, and we noticed that. So there are some areas where DOT was pretty thoughtful and decided to end the bike lane because it would have made the street too narrow. And that's one of the reasons why there isn't more bike lane on Winthrop going west, because it just gets too narrow for that.
How wide is the street on Winthrop compared with Fenimore?
I didn't measure it, I don't have the measurement right now.
I'd like you to measure it.
Right.
It's-
And just one thing I have to say, if we couldn't get a speed bump, because we were told, I've been trying to get a speed bump on Fenimore for 25 years with a daycare. I even have someone that's high up in DOT, they tried to get the speed bump after my wife almost got killed in front of the house. And we were told that they couldn't put a speed bump because the fire truck needs direct access to the building across, I think that's 667. Right, so if you can't put a speed bump for the children, I cannot understand who thought Fenimore Street was a good idea.
If I can also answer that question, to add some clarity, one of the things that helps drivers slow down is having a narrower path to drive in. And adding a bike lane to that street would typically have the effect of narrowing it and discouraging high-speed driving. So if a speed bump is impossible, typically the next best thing in theory would be adding a bike lane to it, because it narrows the street a little bit visually.
And what side, because I can't tell from this, would the bike lane be?
The south side.
So.
It's on the left when you're driving.
Closer.
So that's affecting me directly in front of my home. I'm gonna tell you right now, if it gets done, you're gonna see me on the news. I'm telling you.
I'm actually concerned that you may get hit by a bike, and that's gonna be the problem.
I've already almost had a fatality. That's why I needed to know who did the survey? Who did the survey and thought that having a daycare was a good idea to put a bike lane on Fenimore? Who?
So I think I can answer some of these questions.
Feel free.
So we have bike lanes on streets all over the city. We have them in front of daycares, they're in front of schools, they're in front of police precincts and firehouses. There are bike lanes in front of Carnegie Hall and Penn Station, in industrial areas, in residential areas, on commercial corridors. There's all kinds of streets that bike lanes are in. And over the years, we've had a similar concerns with people, that you can't possibly put a bike lane in front of a funeral home, or you can't possibly put a bike lane in front of a senior center. And what we see time and time again is that we install them and they work pretty well. Now, a conventional bike lane, which we're talking about on Fenimore and Rutland west of Brooklyn Avenue, is a pretty subtle treatment.
Not when we have 24/7 double parking and we
Right.
will not get by. We will be
Street.
driving in that
That's
bike
not
lane
fair.
every day. What is the point?
Okay, can I have some order, please? Please. Yes, sir?
What is the point?
So-
Bike rack on Empire.
So people, I've often seen, and I've done this myself too, I gotta admit, driven around a double parked car in a conventional bike lane. That's still space you can use to maneuver and get around.
It creates traffic.
It's not good.
It creates traffic.
Double parking.
Drive down a
is
school
not
bus,
good.
you can't get by.
You're
You
giving
can't block the
17
bike
feet
lane.
for a travel lane. You are not leaving room for a single car to pass by if another car is
Not
not.
mentioning.
And it's
So
also
that
parkways.
inside, you can't block the bike lane.
Those, it's also
Everybody's double
parkways.
stacked.
Unloading the trays in the front of their house.
Any more comment to you,
Bike
Suki?
or walk.
I'm supposed
for
to
the
go to the
record,
grocery store on the
Fenimore
bus
is
and
about the
grab,
same
bring
width
home
as
5, 6,
Maple's
7
current.
bags.
And it's a
Disaster
disaster
on
on
Maple.
Maple.
I used to
That's
know
not
Maple,
reasonable
Maple.
for-
But it does not have driveways.
I mean, they clearly doesn't
Really?
work.
That's 24-hour driveways with.
Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me, can I get some order here, please, please? Okay, sir, you finished explaining, because I'm gonna point out 2 more people and then we got.
Yeah, last
That's
piece
our
on
last
that,
2 questions.
Yes.
Winthrop is two-way. It's the same width as Fenimore, but because it's two-way, it's got 2 lanes, one lane each direction, there's no room there for a bike lane. That's why we looked at Fenimore.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am?
I think overall, there are a couple of points just from hearing, as well as I've written out to Dante regarding the last meeting, because I was not able to be there, but I did see the plans. Some of the issues that comes with that as well. A lot of the entities, such as DOT or whoever other organizations, are not talking to each other.
Special interest.
Special interest, because I live, again, like I said, I live on Kingston Avenue. From the flood that left a lot of these illegal basements flooded, that location where Rutland and Kingston meets, it is at an incline where the hills are coming together. You are trying to put a bike lane and make it safer for kids to cross, but yet you have yet to address the sewage issue in which the trees are collecting and nobody's cleaning up. So unless you clean that up and clean up the other streets that's supposed to be more accessible for you to cross, how do you implement something else that you can't even fix without talking to each other? That's one.
No clapping.
An example of in which you have too many city bikes that are not being used, and you need to understand the demographics within the area of who's using it and who's not. You have way too many. For example, in Crown Heights, on Rochester going to over by Utica area, you have every other block in which they have about 20 bikes. Nobody's using it, or it's always empty, and only 2 bikes are on there, and it's taking up a good 2 spots. There needs to be a better way of understanding how many every other bike rack needs to be, and if there's if a sidewalk is wide enough to put it on there, put it on the sidewalk. We don't need it on the streets. And then to a third point, we have 5 boroughs. Manhattan is the main one where all the transportation, whether it's bus, train, biking, walking, whatever happens. You have Long Island, which is a suburb. You have Staten Island. You have upstate New York, Yonkers or whatever. Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, most of them that's the first place where most of them go. You know how they're getting there? Public, by their private vehicles, because they have to go home. People from Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens have 50-50. You are now taking away parking from other people who are coming into the outskirts of the city, which is really Manhattan, the hub, and then now you're adding on to that. It doesn't make sense. There needs to be, yes, you want the bike lanes, however, it needs to be a better way and a better design. Maybe you could have a divider that would help shorten. It seems like it's a cop-out way of introducing those bike lanes instead of actually properly looking into how to properly do it.
Yes.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Do we have one more question for tonight? Comment, please.
Okay, I just wanna say, I'm listening to everybody and I'm hearing a lot of concerns. And a very common concern that I hear is getting down the street because of double parked vehicles. It is not your bike lanes that are causing the double parked vehicles. It is an attitude that people can just stop. And I bicycle from Kensington, Midwood across. I come down Bedford Ave, and I can't give a count for how many double parked vehicles there are when they could pull over to the curb. They could pull into a spot. If they're sitting in their car, they can even pull in front of the fire hydrant.
Some of those are delivery.
There needs,
Maybe
well,
there's just not
so
enough parking, and that's why
there
double park.
there are other ways, maybe there are other ways such as having loading cars
Infinite
where
demand.
cars cannot
Wait,
be
and what do
parked
bikes pay for?
so
They pay
that
for their parking,
deliveries
they pay for
can
the
take
ones,
place.
they rent
Stored
the
inside.
The problem,
Are
you
you charging your bike?
know, that little
They
bit
pay
of
for nothing.
space is not the bicycles,
Bikes don't kill people.
it's the double
Bikes
parked
break people's
vehicles.
femurs, and
Okay,
that's
so, excuse me, so that
Yeah,
I can
zero
allow
recourse, by the way.
further
No insurance, zero
discussion,
recourse.
excuse me, so that I can allow further discussion, I'm gonna give a minute so everyone can speak, cause we have another agenda to address. Thank you. So it was you, sir,
Thank you, I'll be brief.
you, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll try to be as brief as I can. The name of the study, which is the original study, is not bike lanes for Crown Heights. This was never about putting in bike lanes, and I think we should stay on topic. It's school safety improvements. So the number one concern over here are the safety of the children, not putting in bike lanes. That's not what we're here for. I think that we should stay on topic with that. I looked at the study, and first of all, there's a couple of interesting things. The number one area, which is in 3 pictures, 3 slides, is the corner of Rutland and Kingston. Demonstrating how that's an issue and how they're speeding on that block. But when you look at the actual numbers, there are 0 injuries from that area. And that's the main area of complaint. And in your studies, look at it, there are 0 injuries. I can show you on the map. So how is it that you're going to be fixing Rutland and Kingston, which has 0 injuries, by doing the traffics on Kingston and Brooklyn? Aside from that, there are corridors along Maple and East New York, which means that you can access bike lanes if the bike lanes start lower from on Kingston and Brooklyn, lower from East New York and down. That will give you access to Winthrop. Secondly, for the vehicles, emergency vehicles, you can institute have 2 lanes and a bike lane, not a protected bike lane because that's a danger to our children, like everybody expressed. You can have 2 lanes and a bike lane without giving an extra parking, because if you look at one of the parking spots, it's a little bit wider, you don't have to give it. So that's another thing. And also, I just want to suggest another suggestion, which has to do with the intersection on Empire and New York, which is very congested. New York Avenue from Empire until Lincoln Road is 1 way. South of Lincoln Road is 2 ways. It's a very, very wide street. You could turn that into a 2-way street, I think it actually even was at a point, and have bike lanes going up and down, which would connect it to Empire Boulevard and connect it to Winthrop. I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just quickly, I like what this young lady said. Montgomery and Kingston, they put 3 bicycles there. I was there this morning at 9 o'clock, and it's a place for like 20 bikes. So you're trying to kind of fooling us to say that all the others were taken. They aren't. So maybe that should be removed. I mean, you have to check and see which areas aren't being used, because we are over biking in our neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Sir. Sir.
Oh, thank you. I like what he said, and I like what this lady over here said. I think it's a matter of balance. I don't think we have balance in the city. I think we're going around the place putting everything everywhere because of very small special interest group that wants to see what they want to see. And I think that if we take the time to really understand the community and really understand the needs, we will not be in this problem. We gotta stop with the special interest that is running this city into what they want to see. And that's what we're having right now in every single street. Go to Underhill. Take a look at Underhill. They have giant flower pots in the middle of the street. In what world this happens? But they're there because they are a very special interest that decides this is what we want to do. And this is how we want to see our street. But did they ask the entire area whether or not this works for them? No, because there are tons of people complaining about this design that the special interests put together to control traffic. But guess what? It makes it even dangerous, because you don't know under what conditions somebody is driving is going to run right into that flower pot and then hit somebody, and then it gets even worse. Stop with the special interest, understand the community, and actually make a balance of what we're doing in our community.
Can I invite the DOT for a walk with me in the neighborhood, maybe per day? I'll give you my number, you can come take a walk, maybe I can actually show you how our neighborhood operates as opposed to just.
Very good idea.
Just
Yeah,
writing
so we're
data
gonna have
and
to
surveys.
stop here.
Yes.
We have this scheduled for 8 p.m. to end, and we have gone beyond that because we wanted to make sure everyone, or as many as possible, had a chance to, have a say on this.
Thank you.
And there are gonna be ways for you to submit feedback online too. So you can go and submit in writing more detailed feedback. We'll be collecting it, going over it in further iterations of the changes we've made so far.
We can write to DOT?
Huh?
We can write to DOT?
Write to us and we'll incorporate it. And look at the DOT too.
So was there a deadline? I think I saw something by November 29th or something to make submissions?
Oh, not for this. That might have been for a different
Okay,
program, yeah.
okay.
So enough for this one. But yeah, so at this time, thank you for your feedback. If you have any more, or if you haven't spoken today, we will send you a link where you can give your feedback in more detail, and we will incorporate it, all right? The next thing on our agenda is to have the committee take on a different issue. So if you don't, the rest of this meeting will not be about this topic. Thanks, everyone.
No more bike lanes, correct? You don't want bike lanes, raise your hand. No more bike lanes, look at this. Wow.
There's a bike lane. Wait, whatever bike. Whatever bike. Right, so we have large families. Anything else? My wife's going shopping. Going in a basket. Exclusively news. Whatever has to
The next topic is on Malbone and Clove Road, curb cut authorization. Very boring. The builder wants to build a very wide curb cut.
We want a bike lane on Empire Boulevard. We really want a bike lane on Empire Boulevard. A bike lane on Empire Boulevard that falls into Prospect Park. The bike lane should not stop where a woman is killed by a truck on a bike. The bike lane should continue from Bedford Avenue.
New York Avenue.
Prospect Park, Bedford Avenue. So, thank you. And this community board passed a resolution for that, and I hope that continues. Look at Dante.
Well, this is the point about
I wanted to share the perspective.
Yeah, no, I think that's, yeah, more.
Bike buses about winter, summer, it just doesn't work.
Okay, everyone who wish to stay, you can stay. We are going to conduct another session.
Sorry.
Thank you all. Okay, okay. So you're not, okay, okay. I got you. Okay, got you. I got you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Give me two. More over there. More over there.
This is for Cove Road, right? Yeah, very familiar.
They're gonna extend the sidewalk.
Are you here for Cove Road? Do you live over there? Oh, I'm glad, really glad you came. I was hoping to hear. I think you've spoken a meeting another time online.
I'm silent for this.
If you're not going to be silent. Oh, really? Oh, for Cove Road? Oh, wonderful. I live on Sullivan. I live very close. And I walk over there a lot now. And then I wonder probably gonna deal with all that traffic. It's gonna be a big, and they're looking for that entrance to their side is gonna be on Club Road. It seems like City Council will allow them.
Not about the building.
Waivers and how that traffic.
Just the curb cut.
That isn't supposed to be allowed. I don't think they're looking at having
Nothing better to do, or
what's going to happen when everybody. There's no entrance on North Street. They built right up. They used, that's where the entrance used to be, right? The building is right up at the side. The entrance is only gonna be on Club Road. And everything is gonna be on Club Road. The buildings are right up the side of the road. It's not done already. They're asking for a code.
Right from the
And all the trucks that are gonna come, all the I mean, I live on the corner, there's, I think I'm one of the people that are directly affected.
Hello.
Not that I have any power.
I check the agenda every month.
We don't care about the bike. Nobody cares. We care about the bike lanes. There should be no bike lanes. That's over. No. We're talking about the
We are very.
If there's bike lanes, the bike should be on the bike lane, not on the sidewalk. And it's not that bad. There's bike lanes, right? And Nicole and I went over there on the driveway, and Empire.
They're very common.
Coming from a meeting.
Where the drivers are, there's 200 to be responsible. On the side now, it's
This topic is going to be regarding Cole Road.
It was supposed to be a.
That's what you're here for? Cole Road or Melbourne? Perfect. Okay. All right.
So just to make sure that we're all starting at the same place, I'm gonna ask at least a couple of people. Do you currently know about what's happening or what may be happening on Clove Road and Melbourne?
We live there, we know everything.
Okay.
No, belatedly.
Just found out.
Because the 10-day period, not 30 days, that they gave happened to fall right on Sukkot. From the beginning of Sukkot, ended October 30th, the end of Sukkot, and the sign that they posted was wrapped around the pole, and if you didn't know the sign was meant to be a sign to be read, you wouldn't even know it was a sign, and only because somebody who spent their time sent out everybody. We belatedly find out about it. Some of us made comments, but we really feel that the time to comment should be opened up larger, look to a larger, a broader time frame. In addition to which, the survey that they said they did is extremely misleading because it was taken, like this gentleman said, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which doesn't reflect the activity that takes place on Malbone Street and Clove Road, and that there's children every day going from Gladstone on Empire Boulevard to school there, going up down Malbone Street, up Clove Road, and they're waiting in the street because the sidewalks are in horrible condition. Because the city 20 years ago, I got a judgment against them. We're supposed to fix the sidewalks, and they didn't fix the sidewalks for over. The street is a disaster. The signs are not kept. And then there's children that go to Base Rivka, which is a school on Montgomery and Crown, and they walk on the street. And then this survey was taken on the weekends when on Friday night till Saturday night, I mean it's Friday night and Saturday, there's children playing all day on the street and all day on the sidewalks. It's extremely narrow streets. Malbone Street is one way, one lane, not two, not you can't squeeze by. One lane, one way. Clove Road is the same thing, one way, and you can't even get into the street from Montgomery because there's always people parking illegal, and there's all illegal cars parked, and the police never enforce. And now they want to take
190 cars,
193 parking spots plus parking for an associated, and they want to have a one-way street going from Malbone Street directly into the garage. And then how are people getting out? And then if people live on the block, they said in their survey that it's the back of Malbone Street where people have the back, their garages in the back of their houses. No, it's the front of Malbone Street and Clove Road. People have their cars in the front of their houses. So how are people gonna get from their car into their car and get to make a Malbone Street goes westbound from New York, from New York to Clove Road, and then left on the Empire. So how are people going to get out of their house when there's going to be they want to have, seriously, on that one-way street, two-way traffic coming in and out of a garage and deliveries with trucks. So how's anybody, and then they have emergency vehicles, and then school buses, and then there's the traffic, then there's the garbage trucks, which already have enough time navigating that street. And how is the sanitation going to get down that street, and then they're going, when there's going to be cars coming, 193 cars parked in a garage with a parking for associated. How's anybody going to navigate this street? Besides, it's already dangerous. It's broken. I fell 2 times. I broke my foot. I broke my ankle 2 times on the same street. 2 lawsuits through the city. That's one of the reasons why they were supposed to fix the street, which I sent it in the comments, my judgment against the city, which the city hasn't taken care of for 25 years. We didn't barely even have Malbone Street and Clove Road paved. And not only that, cobblestones, and it's still broken. It's like I could sit here for another 2 hours and just have a little street and talk about it. And pretty lot of people want to comment. But we definitely want more time for a proper survey and proper comments.
I just want to show the public notice that was given about this to the community. This is the sign wrapped around the pole.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, 1 second. Real quick.
just wanna show
Yeah, sure,
all
go
the people on the committee.
And I'm a lawyer, by the
This
way,
was
but I didn't wanna throw it in.
This was the
there.
second sign, this was our.
Nobody say it. You should say it. What is this? What is this?
And he's
This is the sign with the public notice of
They didn't give it to every,
this.
they didn't give it to every building, they didn't go to every building and take one paper and put it on.
Notice.
Somebody take it on. They put it on.
All right, yeah, that's an order, please.
I thought the first week it was.
Sir.
Lost dog.
Nobody from DOT is here.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to show everybody.
Anybody from DOT here?
They just left. No.
Well, wait, I did
It was-
mention.
But this isn't really about them right now. That,
But DOT is supposed to give the variance, who's giving the variance?
yes, that will happen later. Today, they're asking for a community board comment, which will have an impact on what happens next. And you're here to help us formulate that comment.
We definitely need we really believe there should be a wider time frame.
We agree.
For the people to give public comment, because we got sandbagged.
We agree. I'm not sure.
We're not holding you responsible.
Thanks.
At least not this
I've
one.
noticed.
By the way, our Balbo Street, he came here a few times, I don't know, I spoke to you, I sent an emails, I fill up a form, there's no name, there's no Balbo Street. For 5 years, I'm trying
There are
to,
tons of street signs missing.
no, but I came here, who's the, you Dante?
Huh?
No.
I'm not Dante. Dante's inside.
I spoke to Dante a few times, 5 years, just to
But we're
put
not
the
talking
sign.
about that.
I know, I'm just showing
It's
how
not on
how
the-
neglected
But I
we are.
understand, you're saying it's not it's very overlooked of an area.
That's
Well,
it.
The problem is here, really, in the actual survey, where they write here very clearly, the character combined with this alignment of Clove Road with the surrounding grid, street grid, results in a lack of pedestrians on the street because it's back of the house. Now the problem is that Community Board 9 has not taken care of this street. We've been fighting for about 15 years to have the street repaved, to have the parking signs done properly, to now say, come
And the sidewalks repaired.
Right.
Which I also tripped on a sidewalk.
Can I ask you a question? So Clove Road, wasn't it, is it cobblestone?
It was
Yes.
cobblestone at the end, and it was at the top, and the community board tried to make it, officially, if you look in the documents the community board has.
We did try to
The top
make
of, the top of Clove Road, they spent how many hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a archaeological dig, but they found coke bottles from 1985. But, so, I mean, I could have given you one I have in the house, but, they found nothing basically, and they must have Terra wanted to put a brick at the end or whatever, then make, and he's officially, Carl Cohen is the gentleman that owns the property on the corner of.
He's right next
Right
to
here.
you.
Oh, Carl Cohen.
Tim.
So he got officially permission to decommission the street and make it into a pedestrian plaza.
Okay,
So he's got permission from the DOT. He did it
But
around
he's
the
selling it
backyard
now.
of not getting the DOT, the
For
community board approval, but
the
he did get
development.
approval. Now, if he
It's
ever
not gonna
builds his
be a park
building
anymore.
and he decommissions the street, I don't know what, and you've given him this curb cut, I don't know what's gonna happen.
So let me ask you please, is that a historical location, that part of it?
Well, the archaeological dig
Hold on,
finds nothing.
one second, before we get into.
I'm just asking a question if I could, please.
Sure.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Is it, historical? That,
Historical.
oh, it is historical. So,
The archaeological dig turns up nothing, no archaeological significance. It's an
It's
old road.
supposed to be a
from
native
1820,
pathway,
that's
an
about it.
ancient native pathway, that's what the historic.
There was, the pathway was
But it's
on
not
Flatbush Avenue,
confirmed.
and it was on Bedford Avenue, the Bedford Path. They originally thought it might be the Bedford Path. Turns out the Bedford Path was closer to Bedford Avenue, it was maybe on Rogers Avenue, it certainly wasn't on Clove Road. Clove Road had a farmhouse on Clove Road until 1820. 1820, they demolished the farmhouse and put a road there for the first time. There was nothing there, there was never a road, there was never a path. The archaeological survey showed exactly what it was, they looked at all the old maps. There was really nothing on Clove Road. Mike Zatera, who styled himself as a amateur archaeologist, thought that there was some historical significance. They did an archaeological dig. They spent $150,000 doing 3 digs along Clove Road, and while they didn't find Coke bottles, they found milk bottles, but more important, didn't start bottling milk until like 1900. So that was the oldest thing that they found was less than 100 years old at the time.
I only ask this because I thought perhaps this would be a good way of preserving that location, you know, that, because I am familiar with that line, okay? And all the homes that lives over there, and I think that it would be, you know, horrible to, for what they're asking.
It says here lack of pedestrians on the street. Now, in Crown Heights, if you take it as a totality, Malbone Street is known in a way as a bungalow colony, like in the country. Why? Because it's such a small street, kids can play freely on the street, and they do all the time. And they're claiming that there's lack of pedestrian activity, because if you come in the middle of the day, yeah, my kids go to school, we don't leave them alone. So no one's there. But you come on a Saturday or on a Sunday or in the evening, come 4 o'clock in the afternoon, come in the summer, you know, March, April.
Or in the morning when the kids are going to school and then they're using.
There's a lot of kids on the street. I mean,
walk.
You know, and you hear them, you sit in the house, you hear car screaming, the kids are screaming to each other to move. But if you bring them in 193 new cars here, suddenly it becomes not a street that can be used anymore. I mean, they're claiming only 6 cars within these hours and 8 cars within these hours. I mean, that's irrational, because I spoke to the people in the building, they said they're not sure if they're giving how much space they're giving to the supermarket. And this doesn't take into consideration people are going to the supermarket. So, if you get, what?
Can you repeat that?
They're not, I spoke to the builders, and the builders, I asked them what's happening with the parking spots. Are you giving it, where people are going to park for the supermarket? They haven't decided how many spots we're giving to the supermarket. Now, if you bring a supermarket and one of the only supermarkets in the area that have parking, you're going to have a lot more than 6 cars in and out.
And deliveries with trucks, by the way, and deliveries with trucks.
And their main reason to move this curb cut, to make it bigger and to put it there, is to have direct traffic from Malbone Street into their parking lot. Now, that's where all the kids are playing. So, you know.
So let me give a bit of background from what I know as of right now. As of what I understand, the original application this building had associated with it had initially planned for an entrance to the supermarket being on North Shore Avenue as in the past.
That would have been beautiful.
Huh?
That would have been beautiful.
Right, that was the original plan.
The past one
And
that
was the original plan. And they changed, right? Some might call it a bait and switch, others might just say it's a change of plan. But the plan is different now, and they intend to put the entrance to the supermarket in the back of the building, which puts it on Clove Road.
What's the reason?
We don't know. They didn't tell us that.
They didn't tell us either, did they? They didn't tell us about the change plan either.
No.
So it sounds
sorry.
arbitrary. If they didn't tell us
It's already there, right?
why should we consider it?
Well, that's what I'm getting to now. So the current situation is that they decided they're going to put the curb cut in the back of the building, and they didn't tell us beforehand. And tell us now. They gave us about a 10-day window to respond or to figure out our comments. And in the DOT document that we have here, it essentially outlines the responsibility of the builder, and they're supposed to essentially add a ton of street treatment on their dime, not DOT's, to essentially make Clove Road and Malbone Street more usable as what it'll essentially end up being, as an artery into this parking lot and supermarket. The only, well,
because they're going to have the loading areas and all that. It's better for the building. It's not better for the people living there.
well, the thing is, the issue with that is now it seems that the options are either we disapprove this curb cut and it ends up potentially being too small and it's an issue with them, or we potentially approve this and see what benefit the community can get from it. There are a few options here that involve the developer committing money and effort to improving the condition of that street and the condition of the streets around it. So stop signs at the corner of Clove and Empire and stuff like that, which will be needed if you have a almost 200 space parking garage emptying out into Clove Road.
In the morning, I'm just gonna answer the question, I'm sorry. but
No,
I'm
go
just gonna
ahead.
answer
That
the
was
question.
generally
And
the comment.
in the morning, right, so first there's a couple of things going on. First, there's police park on half of Malbone Street is basically dedicated, you know, we have an unofficial deal with the police department, right? Half of Malbone Street, the civilians, or use the word park, and half of Malbone Street, the left half, the police 71st precinct parks. And even though it says a sign along Old Street, no parking, they don't give us tickets and we don't park in their spots. But the problem is they also don't tow cars that are abandoned. But excuse me, because it's relevant. Why is it relevant? If you let me finish, you'll hear why it's relevant.
History.
There's a lead up. So the point is that now the street is very congested in the morning. There's police cars that are coming and going, police officers coming and going. Then there's children going to school, and then there's people getting in and going to work or going to synagogue from that live on Malbone Street. And now you're gonna have 193 cars in the morning getting ready. I don't even know how you're gonna fit. It's small. I'm sure you all know how small.
Yeah.
How are you gonna have 100 and not, we don't have room for the cars that are parked and the cars that people live on Malbone Street barely. And now we have 193 additional cars in the morning, and I don't even know how garbage trucks and access, how anybody's, the services and emergency vehicles, how anybody's gonna be accessing that road, and without endangering, again, the children, and they still gotta walk out of the house, and how they gonna cross the street? There's one sidewalk. One side, not two sidewalks. So they're walking on one side of the street, now they gotta get out of the street. How are they gonna get with all that traffic?
Well, there's two things on the agenda.
Hold on one
It's not just
second.
the curb.
You guys have for a while. Go ahead.
So I'm not clear what the ask is, because it's clearly a very small space area here to maneuver and give access to what the developers want versus what the community want. So what is the ask from the developer here?
The ask from the developer is to just have a wider curb cut.
That's not true. That's not true. They're also asking for two. They're asking to, it's illegal at the moment in the state, in the state of New York. To have a curb cut in the city of New York.
Yeah,
to have a curb cut at an intersection.
So
So that's not allowed at all.
They're sneaking. What
That's
they're doing
good.
is, they're saying, we want to widen, what they're putting up in bold letters is, we were just asking for a 1-foot extension of the curb cut from 22 feet to 23 feet. Sounds like nothing, what's the big
That's
deal,
what I heard.
22 to 23? What they're hiding is what the real ask is, they're putting a driveway in an intersection, and you're not allowed to do that. So that's the big ask. They're not asking for 22, 23 feet. They're asking to put a driveway in the middle of an intersection. You can't put it without a special variance from the DOT
I
saying
think
you
they
can
got
put.
one. They got a variance, I think.
They
That's
did
what
not,
they,
it's in this request right here.
They didn't get it.
It's in
They,
this
oh, they didn't, they.
No, it's in the
They're
request right here.
asking, that's what they're asking now. They're asking now.
Developer talked about it, and I don't know they got
They
it.
built the building,
That's why they're telling you they got it.
they built the building, put in the driveway, and then hope to say, oh, we spent millions of dollars putting in this driveway, and now we're gonna ask for the variance. They did a bait and switch. Now they're gonna say we spent $50 million on putting it in. Now you can tear your building down and put it someplace else.
So that's the ask from the developer. What is the ask from the board?
We're reforming that right here. My idea is to get like an ideal ask, potentially okay ask, and what we will not accept at all. I'm trying to use feedback today to figure out each level of what we can take, what we ideally want, and
They can do Nostra Avenue, they can enter the same way, they can have the entrance on Nostra Avenue.
perhaps
They don't need now.
the building's already built, which is what they've probably
They,
tried to
they,
do.
they can put a ramp in on Clove Road, but much further north. They can reconfigure that part, they can rebuild without the ramp, and put a ramp someplace else.
The ask is right here, so everyone is clear. The ask is the authorization by the city planning commission pursuant to section, whatever that is, of zoning laws, resolution to allow curb cut 23 feet in width, in excess of 22 feet. And maximum width, and to allow such a curb cut to be located 0 feet from an intersection of the two street lines, rather than the minimum 50 feet from an intersection required by the section 25.
0 feet rather than 50 feet. So that means right, here's Malbone Street, here's Clove Road. They hit each other right here. This is where they wanna make their driveway, meaning you drive from Malbone Street straight into that driveway. That means you have to cross Clove Road into the driveway, then somebody's gonna come out of the driveway in
The
the
thing is,
same
right now, the board
place.
got to be 50 feet away, they're asking for 0. That's the main thing. The other one is, so say they got, this is why the
So the
request
little
right
letters
here.
is, what we were just widened by the cut, and the little letters, they would move the whole thing 50 feet into the wrong place.
So they didn't get it, that's what I'm trying to get. So the question is that they, Like you said, and now they're trying to get stuff through, you know, but we built the road. Like you said before, they originally wanted to have the previous had a drive-in where the big trucks had a loading bay. Yeah, they had a loading bay.
So it didn't affect Malbo Street and Empire Boulevard.
And all the curb cuts they had on Nostrand Avenue.
And that's why the traffic went.
Was never on close. All the curb cuts they had till now. There was no entrance except for this.
I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry, I gotta have one conversation for me to absorb what's going on. I'm sorry, excuse me, I gotta have one conversation, please, so I can understand what's taking place. Please. Yes, Chair?
The bottom line over here, if I may say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Have you done one conversation now?
Yeah.
We need a good month of time just to sit together, develop an approach. We understand the building is built. We understand the developer has their needs, but we also have our needs. And it was not done in a proper manner to allow us to respond or even have advanced knowledge. This conversation should be taking place before the first piece of equipment went on the ground. That's when it should have taken place, not now. So what we are really asking for at this meeting is, give us the month or whatever you can get for us so that we can come up with a plan and see whether or not there's a way. So yes, the developer can have their building, we understand what's going on, but at the same time, that we might be able to make suggestions that will ameliorate the situation for the kids. He was talking about the kids in our block. Malbon has 36 condos, 12 columns of 3 condos, first floor, second floor, third floor, 12 columns of it. That's Malbon Street, that's the whole thing. In my column where I live, there are nearly 20 kids, just in that 1 out of 12 columns. I don't know the exact number of kids, but this is a serious situation. In addition, as we've stated before, all the kids from the school on Empire in New York, a lot of them come up over there. And not only that, there's other kids who don't live on Malvern that go to the Base Rivka School on Crown, etc., etc. So there's a lot of human traffic, let alone what we're trying to understand what's happening with the car traffic and the commercial traffic. This has to be adjudicated in a way, not kapla, not just, well, here we are, we're gonna have a solution in half an hour. We need time.
But
That's what we're asking.
Do you realize that there's a time constraint here by the developer for this board to respond to the ask?
Correct, but all that was put in
Right,
place
so,
in a
one
very
second.
inappropriate.
I'll learn something really quick. I understand your point.
That's what I'm saying.
I understand your
We
point
have to
about.
find that common ground. It's like, how do we
One
get that
second.
that time?
I understand your point about needing time to get a solution, hashed out. But we don't set all of our deadlines. Some of them are set for us, and it's really in our best interest to be decisive in a short time frame, so you can,
Yeah, but when you give the time frame of a Jewish holiday, we're not allowed to do any work for 10 days, and you give
Right.
10 of the 11 days, we can't do any work. That doesn't give us any time.
And I'm sure
I'm sure they
I'm not gonna say
know
for certain,
exactly what that
Right.
I'm not gonna say for certain, but there's fair likelihood that it was done deliberately.
Yeah, it's
This-
very
the
sneaky.
timing was exactly the day before the holiday to the day after the holiday. Really?
I understand, we can't change that, it's already been done, and the thing, we can't.
In my experience, everything can be changed. Time to get an extension, I promise you, if the builder wanted to get an extension to do something that they wanted to do a change, they'd get an extension. They'd call the DOT and they would get an extension. The residents of a building were not told about this until after the building was built and then given a 10-day period during a holiday. That's not acceptable.
I understand.
Okay.
But for now, we still need to make progress here today.
Well, but you have all the comments of the people sent in.
Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me, we have to have one accord here. One at a time.
You were next, you had your hand up.
I have 2 things that I just want to bring up very quickly. I understand that there was a survey done over here. The survey has holes in every single little sentence that there is, and as far as I'm concerned, I think there should be a review and there should be an investigation into the survey that was done that gave all this crap that's on the, excuse my expression, that all this crap that's on this table, that all this information that we're getting, it's all nonsense. None of it has any legs to stand on, and the survey that they did should be reinvestigated. If necessary, make a new survey.
Okay, I'll take your comment.
Okay, next.
Very good.
I'm just wondering what the organization is that oversees this that we could bring our concerns to. Is it the DOB? Is it the DOT? Is it
I
both?
believe it's ULURP and DOT right now.
Good DOB.
So, and the city council person for this is Rita Joseph, correct?
No, Rita's below Empire Boulevard. I believe
No,
it's
I think Rita, no, I think Crystal, I think it, there's a dividing line on, no
The
square.
dividing line is on Empire Boulevard, actually. Who's your city council?
It's definitely
Below
Crystal
Empire
Hudson.
Boulevard.
Who's your city council member? Is it Crystal or is it?
It's Crystal Hudson, 100%.
Oh, one more thing, sorry.
Yep.
To leave Clove Road, there's a stop sign, there's no like traffic light.
Right.
So Empire is very busy, sometimes I'm waiting 10, 20, 30 seconds, 40 seconds just to leave. But sometimes there's like 2-3 cars, there's traffic. As of now, just to leave Clove, it's gonna be disaster. With the trucks, with the cars.
And on Sunday, the church has parking on
All the information that
every
you
weekend, the church has parking, and they park on the sidewalk in Empire Boulevard.
Alright,
Alright, so
alright.
let me see if I can turn the conversation a bit more to some solutions here.
I'm sorry, sir, please.
Well, yeah, I mentioned
Please,
parking.
please.
Let's see if we could have some beginnings of solutions here. Is there anything that we here might think would solve this problem?
They could get the DOT to give us permission to close the street on Jewish holidays, Sabbath, as a play street.
Which street?
Melbourne Street. Melbourne Street. No, just Melbourne, no, just Melbourne Street.
Melbourne Street.
Just Melbourne Street.
That's only once a week. What's gonna be the rest of the week?
Where you have to
If they
stop.
can do anything on Nostrand Avenue, that's my question. If they can change, reverse something, that make more sense.
Might be ideal.
Entrance, delivery, something. Everything just.
Or on the north side of Clove Road, like it used to be, the entrance.
Sorry, once again, the survey that was done, as far as I'm concerned, it's not valid. It should be a new survey that should be done
You have to meet
on the
the
basis of
developer.
information that is over here.
They
You
could
ask for a
have
new survey to get the right information.
Okay, yes, sir.
Well, I understand, but
I'm sorry.
the risk in doing that is having them move on without us, which is possible.
How?
The risk in doing that and taking too long ends up with them going to the agency directly, who might also not know or might also not have you in the room, and they might approve it without us. So
Can we not be party to the
if we
survey?
take too long, we lose that spot.
We can't be party to the survey that was done. In other words, we.
Perhaps we can, but if we ask for another one and kind of run the clock out,
Okay.
we run our own clock out and we lose that seat at the table.
I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
This gentleman, I can't remember which one, but you indicated that some of the information was inaccurate in when they were making that. Is there a way that within a few days that you can come up with a statement that counters that the information? So
When
that,
you call our front egress to the front of our homes, our backyards, I mean, that's ridiculous.
When you say there's no.
Yeah, it shows that they don't understand the area.
No,
so that could be a weight for the argument that whatever you're trying to do is not adequate or appropriate for the particular neighborhood, that you want to have this two-way traffic on this narrow street. I don't know how
It wouldn't
many
be
feet
two-way.
wide is it? You know, because you're saying that they want the
It's
people to
gonna
come
be, not gonna be
down
two-way street.
It's gonna be one way.
It's gonna be one way.
from, no, they're coming in, what, on
From
New York
New York
Avenue?
Avenue.
All the way down Melbourne, that's what you're saying,
They
right?
want to come on down Melbourne Street into the garage, but the same garage you're going in with the westbound traffic is the same garage they want to have coming out on the eastbound traffic, which is on a one-way street, which means they have to go eastbound on a one-way street and then turn on the Clove Road.
No, that's not Eastbound Road. They're gonna turn onto Clove Road, go to.
But they have to come out, it's still Melbourne Street. They have to come out.
Okay, hold on. I can clarify a little bit. They wouldn't be going east on on Malbone Street, but they would be exiting the garage facing Malbone Street.
Zero, when it's zero place, when they wanted 0 feet from the intersection, that means that's an intersection of Clove Road and Malbone Street.
I understand.
That means it's both. It's Clove Road and it's Malbone Street. You can't ignore it. When I drive westbound on Malbone Street, and I get to Clove Road, it's still Malbone Street. When I make that left, I'm on Clove Road. The same way, there isn't a magic square. That square is both Malbone Street and Clove Road. And that's why it's called 0 feet variance.
Yeah.
That's why it's actually on both streets, and that's why it's one-way street, one lane, and they want to have 2 directions of traffic coming into a one-way street. When you have pedestrians and children, we only have pedestrians with only one sidewalk, not 2 sides. So you can't even cross to the north, to the south side.
The sidewalk's always blocked.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. You didn't hear what I said. You're not listening. You didn't hear what I said. There's only one sidewalk. You can't walk the other side of the street to have access to Empire Boulevard. So it's complete danger.
So in this picture, this is the one sidewalk. Across the street, there's no sidewalk, right?
Yes, that's one side. There's no sidewalk. You didn't hear what I said. You're not listening to this.
So, excuse me, so what Valerie, excuse me. Thank you. So what Valerie is asking, she needs something that's tangible, that we can present, so we can have this discussion.
Can I just ask a question?
Well, what happened to our comments that we sent then? Where did that go to? By email.
The email, it goes to our office, to Dante.
So I sent them an email, explain some of that in the email.
Okay, we can
But
get
I
that
can explain
information.
more.
Very good. Yes, sir?
So would there be any benefit of getting the developer, the community, within that time frame to have this discussion? Because I don't think we're gonna get anywhere unless the developers know exactly what the community feels like.
So what you're asking for is the developer to be here along with DOT?
That would help. That would
help.
help. That would
Good point.
put everybody's attention to an ease. They will come to a solution, and then everybody may not be completely happy, but there will be a solution.
But meanwhile, still, write your counterpoint to all of the incorrect information. So you already said, you said.
Nicola? I'm sorry, excuse
I
me.
would recommend, as you said, that you still document what your concerns are so that it's clear to them why it is very important that they have a conversation with the community, because the survey that they conducted was grossly inaccurate and they're creating a safety hazard.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Because the
Nicola.
community is just gonna
We can
go.
all agree, can all agree.
Okay, yes, sir?
We can all agree that Malbone Street is very congested, very tight space, very congested. To have all of that traffic coming in from New York Avenue, making a left going into Malbone, this is gonna be horrendous. But perhaps, if there's no other alternative, there's no other choice, the traffic can come down from Clove. And then they can just go into the parking.
From
avoid it.
Montgomery.
From Montgomery, going down Clove.
Crazy.
Going down Clove, which is a one-way, Clove is a one-way, going down Clove into the parking. Like this, they avoid Malbone.
Yeah, but it's still gonna be disaster.
It's
still gonna be disaster.
Okay, all right. Did someone else have a hand up?
Traffic.
Yes, sir? Okay, yes, sir?
Even if traffic, when you make your
They're
left.
asking for a variance. The community board has to give an opinion.
Please.
The community board has to give an opinion on whether or not they should be granted the variance. So far, no one's come here and said why they should be granted a variance, why they should be permitted to put up a building, put a driveway in an intersection, then come and despite all the problems that it created, just do it, and then come afterwards and beg forgiveness instead, just put it up and then do it. I'm not sure why they should be granted the variance in the first place. Maybe they should just be permitted, have to redesign the driveway and put it out 50 feet away from the intersection.
That's
Why is it on us to respond within the period when they're the ones who are asking for the variance? It's not us who's asking for any. We're asking for nothing. We're asking for
The law to
the
be
law to
upheld,
be
and
to
them not
enforced.
granted a
They're
variance.
asking for a change in the law, and we're being told, 1 second, you're too late. They put up a building, they never came to us, they never came to the community, they never came to the community board, they never came to this committee. Has anyone been here from this committee? No, no one's been here before this committee from the building. They've never asked anything, they just put up the building, and now they want to have a variance. And now they're saying, we have a period with which we have to respond and come with everything within a 10-day period, because they put up a building 2 years ago and put up the plans when they did, and they didn't ever put the plans online or anything. Unless you go down to the Department of Buildings and pull their plans, you couldn't see what they were doing. They don't put it up on anything. Nobody. This is the first that I'm hearing that the Associated or whatever supermarket is going to be put on Clove Road instead of on Nostrand Avenue. They're turning Clove Road into a commercial district when the Clove Road was ever a commercial zone. And now they're turning it commercial, they're putting a supermarket in the middle of a residential block.
Thank you.
Do
Jeff?
Do we know whether or not this was presented to housing?
ULURP, I think, did refer it to us.
Right, because I'm not clear if this is really the committee that should be addressing this.
It is though, because it's essentially, it's the agency we deal with, and
But no,
it's a
the
complete.
change in the building plan, I mean, if,
No, but they didn't change the plan, they built something different from what they promised.
Yes, so the building department should be a part of that.
it sounds like housing.
So,
It's already
okay.
been done, so what I'm saying is that the result of this is gonna potentially be a complete redesign of Clove, Malbone, and the exit to
That's
Empire, which is
definitely
why it's us handling it.
transportation, I get it.
Yeah.
But if they move that driveway 50 feet up, that's acceptable?
Well, that's what I was before.
It's not exactly that it's acceptable, but that's what, at least
long-
before, when there was two engines, so.
It avoids the problem of
Associated-
Melbourne Street having traffic, because you can't now drive up Melbourne Street to get to that. You'll have to come down from Montgomery Street, down Clove Road.
Montgomery,
It will
make
avoid,
a right.
it will avoid the problem of Melbourne Street being congested and the danger to our children.
Okay, so I have one more question, which is, Lisa?
Well, I just wonder if they can find any relief from either Crystal Hudson, Zelna Murray, or their assemblyperson Brian Cunningham, right? Those are all the people that represent them, and if this is a state issue with the intersection, right? Isn't it a state law?
It's New
Somebody
York
said-
City DOT handling this and having the agreement, so
So,
it's not really.
so can any of those
right
three
now.
people help them? Help the situation? Crystal, does she,
I mean, maybe, but the ball's in our court right now.
okay.
So I
We should
think.
probably come in, but
I think they
this
should,
is the stage where-
contact them
I
as
think
well.
with the new
They should all
board,
be
they have
involved.
I'm sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Especially
So,
since you voted
I
against
think
stuff.
as a committee, we should look into DOT.
The issue is, I fear we don't have enough time, we need to do something quick.
Right,
I was
but-
I was initially thinking we could have like a draft today.
Because from what I'm understanding here, we should have DOT and also the building, the people that are building the building.
Developers?
Yes.
The developers wouldn't wanna go.
Okay.
Trust me, I understand.
So we're gonna have to make a quick
Wait a second,
decision.
they already
It's gonna be
submitted, they already
they're
submitted a
benefit too.
written.
The customer's gonna suffer too.
It would be great for the developers to be here.
But they,
Okay.
but no, they submitted a written opposition or a written concern.
Yes.
You already did.
We need
did?
to, we
We
need to
did.
get that and
Yeah, let's
piggyback on
incorporate
that
that.
and write the resolution.
Well, we sent it, where else to send it to, obviously.
Send it to Dante's office, please.
He's already got it.
Oh, I see. Okay, and then our secretary who's raising his hand right here.
So,
Yes, sir.
just, I guess procedure-wise, unless I'm misreading this, DOT has already granted them the variance to do this.
No.
As long,
No.
DOT has already granted them the variance to do this as long as it meets all of these requirements listed on one of those pages.
They haven't granted it, they're proposing to grant it.
Right, they're proposing to grant it if it does
If
all
they
of
do
these
all these
things.
things, correct.
Let's say, like, what control do we have in this situation? Let's say we don't approve it, or we ask for another month, or we ask for anything, like,
Why are they asking you to begin with? Obviously, you have some sort of pull.
Well, yeah.
community board sometimes, we're advisory, we don't
It
have to
depends
get
on,
things
it
done
depends on how we,
sometimes.
it depends on how we move on. But,
So what is suggested on your behalf,
so,
besides the gloom and doom that I'm hearing?
it seems to me that the developer already has some sort of early sign of approval on this one. But they need the cherry on top, which is our approval, our comment. And what will happen is they will have to follow a set of rules and guidelines for allowing them to have that curb cut
But all the
installed.
rules and guidelines that they put in the survey doesn't really help us, it only helps them.
But like they're saying that they're gonna reconstruct the curbs and paved surfaces, install new
Yeah,
crosswalks,
but they need it for
replace
them,
lighting.
it says where, if you read it, where it says next to their curb cuts, and next to the.
But
So
you're
should we
mixing, the
accept-
curb cut is a small thing, remember
we-
again, it's an illegal intersection they wanna put. An illegal
Right,
entrance.
so
to
this is
an
an opportunity
intersection.
to extend that ask to repave all of it.
Right.
What does repaving do for us? It doesn't alleviate any pain for the, it doesn't alleviate anything to do with the hazard that they're creating by the unwanted traffic situation with an illegal
I mean,
variance
one-
with a
one-
parking
one-
spot where it should
one-
be.
One option which came up,
We're making progress.
he gave an option was if you extended the sidewalks on Melbourne Street, right,
gooseneck.
like a gooseneck, it would let everyone turn, which is now it's a left turn anyway, right? But it wouldn't allow anyone to go straight or to turn right. That would alleviate them using this as an entrance to their, they can have whatever they want, but if they don't stop using their entrance to their building.
They would have to
They
go
would have to
down
go
Clove
down
Road.
There
Clove
could be a
Road.
gooseneck coming out of Malbon Street so that people on Malbon Street can make a left onto Empire, and people who want to get to the garage would have to come from Clove Road and go
Right,
down
from
Clove
north
Road and
on
make a
Clove
right
Road.
onto the garage. But they couldn't come from Malbon Street to get to the garage because the gooseneck would prevent them from getting there.
Like in every other block, that you can go right just around your house.
What about with the liquor
So
truck?
that's the kind of feedback we're looking for right now. We wanna figure out what you can have this developer do that will make that area not just safer, but also
He
better
doesn't
for
want this,
everyone.
but on his paper, it says he wants to come down Melbourne Street into his garage.
Right, so
That's
if
what
we
he
can,
says.
right, so
That's
whatever
what he
works
says.
to make that better
But
is
if
where.
DOT enforce him to do whatever, because DOT can tell him you can only get the, with this and this and this and this. If this is one of DOT's asks, it says if you want your curb cut, this is what you have to do, it has to do. It's not asking the developer, it's asking the DOT to enforce something on the developer in order to let him have what he wants. It's not asking the developer to do out of goodness of his heart.
Right.
He's not doing anything out of goodness of his heart.
Oh yeah, a lot of things don't run on the.
It's all about
grid,
money,
so
you know?
I'm not sure, yeah, they're not a charity.
So,
So,
sorry, just gonna say, here's Malbone Street, if you put here like a extension of the sidewalk, then the cars would have to turn here, and they would not be able to go into the garage, it would miss the garage.
Right.
So if they wanted to go into the garage, they would have to come down Clove Road, and that avoids, it's on a hill, so no children really play there, it's pretty empty. And so they would have to go past the associated, if that's where they're moving it, and go into the garage to the right, and that would alleviate this problem of having hundreds of cars. It also prevent the trucks, which I'm pretty sure they're not gonna wanna come down necessarily down Clove Road, especially this one truck. Some are gonna come down Malbone Street, and I can have trucks on Malbone Street.
How would they get to
This
Malbone?
prevents them from.
New York.
From New York.
From New York.
They're gonna come right.
Malbon Street, people would get out of Malbon Street, to get onto Malbon Street.
So this gentleman has a solution.
And
We
make
have
it like a
something.
Clove.
This gentleman has a solution, so we're gonna use this,
Even if the
okay?
50 feet away,
Gooseneck.
the street is gonna be
That's
traveled.
Unless they're gonna move the
That's a
deliveries to
possible
Nostrand
solution.
Okay, there's already so much traffic on New
You
York.
propose it, I'm not sure how the,
Police
if
station.
it'll impact the delivery truck.
The renters were
So
south.
committee, so committee,
They're gonna include it, but, yeah, so there's a whole host of other things that they're expected to do. But yeah, they're expected to do things around.
Can I hear what Ethan's gonna say?
Excuse me, let's have one conversation, please, thank you.
Yeah, I was saying there's a host of things that they're expected to do alongside the gooseneck, and I mean, I think the goal here is for us to see how we can have what they're expected to do end up helping everyone, end up helping us, because of course they're gonna benefit massively from having a building there. And too often, people like this, they put buildings down and they don't help those who live in the area. And this is another example of that. So they'll be expected to also install pavement markings and potentially even out the pavement, see a little mound up on Clove Road, close to the top of the street. If we can have that maybe adjusted or built down and converted into a proper sidewalk, and maybe even have two sidewalks. But if we can maintain the street space and raise crosswalks as well, associated sidewalks, stop signs, so that people, so traffic flow is actually good and not too much for the area. But I think that gooseneck's a very good idea, and I want to make sure that along with that ask, we have a lot of other things that make the, area safer and just in
Do you have an
general.
extra one of those? Do
You
have
can
those
take
for
mine.
distribution?
Just
Okay.
another point, by the way, of the
We're getting near that time that we're ready
Yeah,
to
we're gonna
close.
have to go.
Start on the
Yes.
page, but start on the beginning of the letter, because they have the conditions of the curb cut approval. They have to, because they're alleging that if they do these things, that they don't project, significant traffic, pedestrian circulation or safety issues if they do these things here, allegedly.
And the intersection.
There's 190.
According to this.
I just wanted to ask if it makes the slightest amount of sense. They said there's 193 parking spots. They expect an increase of traffic of 6 cars per hour on average. Okay, now if a car goes out and a car goes in, okay, so it's 193, so you'd have, if you have 6 cars an hour, so you have 144 entrances and exits, which means 122 cars. You have 193 spots. You have some of those supposed to be allocated to the Associated or whatever supermarket will actually be there at the end.
And that'll
So
increase.
is it even within the realm of imagination that there's gonna be an increase of 6 cars per hour, giving 122 entrances and exits per 24-hour period when you have a commercial entrance and exit there? They're just lying about things and just saying things
Well, some of
without
those cars
both
probably
face
will
lies.
just stay there, right? It will be residents that
And people,
live there.
most people go to work in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And then, so some of them drive, right?
Some will drive,
And
some
then
will
there's
take
an
the train, some
associated, and
may
they want to have parking for the associated.
I know,
How many people are gonna come for the associated?
This is based on the information of their survey. This is what my
To this
survey
gentleman's
is.
question, I would assume they're saying not 193 cars are not gonna be turning over at all times. Some will just stay there.
That's
all
not
day
what he
long.
said. What he's
It's-
trying to
it's
say
a
is,
mistake.
if it's 6
It's called
cars
6
an
cars an
hour,
hour.
if 6 cars an hour times 24 hours, right?
Right.
That's how many
6
cars?
cars from 6 a.m.
6:20 at PM.
144 cars. So if it's 144 cars, that's ridiculous. You're saying the whole building is gonna plan only 6 cars an hour are going in and out of the building? That makes no
Thank
sense.
you.
So we understand that though.
They're
Yes.
gonna be in the morning and they're gonna be in the evening, and then they're gonna be when this associated parking is coming
So,
in and out.
we understand the needs, we understand what, we're planning to do, the goose.
Gooseneck.
We just separate exits,
Yes.
Grove and Melbourne to Empire Boulevard.
Okay, so with that,
How do we put this together?
Is that the
So,
only?
yeah, I think we could plan to make a motion on that tonight and we can build it out in a resolution for the full board.
right,
That would be beautiful.
right.
Is that the only issue that exists there though, is just the gooseneck?
No, the gooseneck just relieves the fact of Malvern Street having a problem. But obviously, then they don't need this
Clove
variance,
would have traffic.
doesn't help them. Because they don't want heavy traffic coming down, because they want the ease of access to their property.
So that's the major issue.
For them it will be a major issue, that's why, for them it will be a major issue.
For us, it's a major issue
By the way,
also.
You still need to have the discussion with the
Major
developer.
Yes.
on
Yeah,
how
the
he-
developer,
how-
the developer
how he
obviously doesn't
is
wanna come, because he doesn't wanna front any problems, he just throws it down the line.
So do we need to add that in addition to the goose down?
Gooseneck.
Gooseneck. I'm thinking of close.
The weather is getting colder.
Yeah, we can add that in too.
Okay.
One more thing to add to this gooseneck issue, how necessary it is. There have been numerous times when I go to my parking spot I have one of the driveways on Malvo. There's not enough for everybody, but I'm lucky enough to have one of them. There are numerous times that I've had to wait 10 to 20 minutes because of an Amazon truck or because of a
Garbage truck,
a garbage truck, or because of a
UPS.
FedEx or UPS.
and that's without the 193 feet.
That's just
Yeah,
now.
that's what.
Just with
Do
40
you have
cars.
fewer parking spots in there?
No.
No, we have it from,
Mr. Cohen?
In that garage?
Mr.
Yeah,
Cohen?
Paco, one second. We
Mr.
don't have
Cohen,
it
I'm
across
sorry.
the
Yeah,
board.
let's
You're-
hear from
you're
Mr.
still
Cohen.
finishing, Mr. Cohen.
But
Mr. Cohen?
it's just added, it's just for you to have something extra to add for the necessity over here, because if that's the case now currently, you just imagine if they open all this up to all that parking and associated shopping, I mean, it's gonna be ridiculous.
Okay, Mr. Cohen, you wanna say something, because we're gonna wrap this up.
Yes.
Here is where we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, let's hear about his.
Okay, I'm the owner of 967 Restaurant Avenue. My building extends to Clove Road, which 2 years ago, DOT and myself have an agreement that we are going to use Clove Road from Montgomery Street to Joburn as a state-of-the-art plaza. It's already approved by DOT.
Where from Clove Road and
To close on the street, the next
That
street.
vacant lot is
How
there.
they gonna?
They haven't gone to Melbourne. The approval
Melbourne.
It wasn't given to Melbourne. The approval was given to where the trucks used to enter the supermarket.
No,
Okay.
not 20 feet from my property. It was given to one block from
So basically to
Melbourne
close Clove Road?
Clove
He wanted
to Montgomery.
Close Clove Road, so how they gonna deliver to the
Clove.
supermarket?
Okay, so if you could please let him finish what he was saying, please.
What was it, it's supposed to be a park, Carl?
Plaza, yes.
Please.
That's what you told me.
Yes.
So what happened?
Well, I don't know because I'm here for the first time, understanding that DOT is now working with the other developer to make an entrance for their parking. I'm about to start my project. My entrance is on, for the garage is on Nostrand Avenue after Montgomery Street. So I would like to really get into this to find out exactly what happened.
But it was
We are
for
already-
sale.
we are
I
already
saw it for
having a
sale.
stone
It was
from
for sale.
France to commemorate the soldiers
Sorry.
that got killed here at that Clove Road. That was where the War of Brooklyn was fought in 1776.
Yeah.
Clove Road is the first built in 1660 from Manhattan to Canarsie, which we intend to keep those cobblestones.
That's also part of the ask.
Exactly. So I would like to, get a little bit more understanding. I'm not taking away or adding, but this is what happened. The community approved it, that it was going to be working like that. So I don't understand now why it would be so
I'm the
easy
head
not
of the-
to
I'm the head of the board.
inconvenience anyone.
I'm the head of the board.
And that's
Okay,
just
I'm
the
sorry,
point.
excuse
not
me.
approve it.
I'm sorry.
It would be so easy not to inconvenience anyone and jeopardize the children than put their garage and entrance on Nostrand Avenue.
It's the
Just
better-
above from it,
It
yes.
is the
I'm
better
doing the same
decision.
thing.
And have a park. I thought you were gonna have a park. Where's the
Yes,
park?
we have a plaza. It's gonna be a plaza. DOT even start doing markings for,
Could the cars get
for the storage.
I took that survey 3 years ago. for
I
what
did
we wanted to
too.
put on that
2
area.
years ago.
Yeah.
I took that
There were
survey
surveys
as
all over
well.
that area. I took one. I live across the street, so.
Could cars go on that plaza?
And it was not supposed to be any drive-through cars, only emergency vehicle.
Okay. All right, so,
How's it gonna deliver to the supermarket?
okay, we're gonna wrap it up here, and, we have everyone's comments, okay? So,
Probably move to a big business session right now.
okay, so you wanna go to a business
Just like, yeah.
quicker? Okay, so, thank you, and a good night.
We'll hear from you. How does this work?
So we're gonna start building a solution out of this. Yeah, we're gonna get a vote done today. We're gonna get a vote done tonight on what will be in the as. We're gonna start building out in detail, writing out that comment. And that'll be sent to the full board so we can get that out of time.
Can you draft it?
Thank you very much. One more comment.
Down or just running for
A copy of
mayor?
those comments that are being sent.
I will tell Dante to send them to all of us.
That's been emailed. That's what I was saying.
Brian is just download.
Thank you very much.
Generally don't get involved, because I just like to put my money now they're
Thank you for coming, ladies.
Put it up.
There was a railing that was that associated parking for this. They never told us. They never knew anything. I was trying to use it for another speech. I was trying to the frontage is 205. This is 7. So like 225. You have 150. So you're gonna have to manage it with the.
I walked out.
There was a
there was a driveway on,
Yeah, but
there was a driveway, because there was a driveway for the street corner too. There's no driveway.
Start it over now, I have to go reapply.
But the two driveways to the sewer, that's what I'm saying.
There were, there was taking to make a driveway on and this thing here,
I would bring
this years ago, that they're